All right, can you hear me now? Okay. And then the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Nunn.
Good evening. Let us bow our heads. Oh, very, very good. Right over this way. Okay. Once again, good evening.
Good evening.
And let us bow our heads in prayer for our beautiful city, Sebastian. Oh God, our Heavenly Father, we come before you with praise and with thanksgiving through our Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you for everything that you do for us. And Lord, we love this beautiful city, and we ask you to pour out your Holy Spirit upon all who are leading us, and send them the power of wisdom, that they may lead us in everything that is good. And bless all of our people, and bless this beautiful, beautiful area. And may we be here many, many more years to enjoy a very, very special place, a jewel in the state of Florida, and the finest city in the state of Florida. And so we ask this in your holy and precious name, our Lord Jesus Christ, who lives and reigns with you in unity of the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
Oh,
Thank you.
To the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
one
nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Dodd?
Here.
Vice Mayor Hill?
Here.
Councilmember Jones?
Here.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Here.
Councilmember Nunn?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, Council, the city manager has asked that there's been some changes in the state regulation, I believe, and he's asked that we pull under public hearing, section 9, item A, B, and D. They have to go back and reevaluate those things based on the changes that have happened. We will, however, do a public hearing on item C under that heading. All right, any questions about that? No? Okay. Proclamations and brief announcements. October 19th through October 31st is early voting in the city council chambers. That's from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. each day. There will be a drop-off box here for absentee ballots for anyone who wants to drop one off during the early voting time frames. October 23rd is a Halloween pumpkin decorating and candy costume contest. The costume contest is at 6:15. The pumpkin and candy decorating is at 5:30. That's followed by the Sebastian Police Department's movie night out, and the movie is Secret Life of Pets 2. That's all in Riverview Park.
Fun, fun, fun.
Yes. Regrettably, I have to say again that the Clam Bake has been canceled this year. It's a great event. I look forward to it next year. The craft show at Riverview Park will be held, however, on November 7th and 8th, so there will be something in the park that weekend. The Veterans Day observance in Riverview Park will take place on November 11th at 11 a.m. There's no bleachers, so you'll have to bring your own chairs if you plan on attending that. We received recently an indication that the Excellence in Public Procurement Award had been given to our city's procurement manager, Anne Marie Frazier. She received this as the 25th Annual 2020 Achievement in Excellence in Procurement. It's for the National Procurement Institute. This award recognizes procurement organizations that embrace innovative professionalism, productivity, leadership, and e-procurement processes. What makes this an outstanding award, in my opinion, of course, is that there were only 32 agencies in Florida who received this, and only 69 cities in the United States and Canada received it. So Sebastian is one of 69 cities in the United States and Canada who received that award. It shows that our purchasing department is being led by an extremely professional individual, and they do a really good job. And on behalf of the council, extend my great appreciation to Anne Marie for the work that she's doing in the council. Okay, Councilmember Nunn had an opportunity this week to award Eagle Scout badges to some individuals, and he did a proclamation at that time, and I'd like to give him an opportunity to introduce that and to read that proclamation.
Good evening. To earn the Eagle Scout rank, a boy must fulfill requirements in the areas of leadership, citizenship, service, and outdoor skills. Enormous energy, a strong desire, and countless hours are devoted by the individual scouter in developing these skills and completing all the requirements, one of which is an extensive service project for the community. I'm proud to announce that 6 young men will be receiving their Eagle Scout Award this upcoming Saturday. Colin McAdams built a pallet wall, a recycle and garbage center, and a decorated podium at the St. William Hall in the St. Sebastian Catholic Church. Ethan Lewis constructed 3 native bee pollinator nests consisting of natural materials, 2 at the St. Sebastian Preserve and 1 at the LaPorte Farms. Ryan Riker renovated the workout sand pit, refurbished 3 blocking sleds, and a containment area for the workout tires for the Sebastian Sharks Youth Football and Community Cheerleading Association. John Wandell reconstructed the playground at Abiding Presence International Ministries in Vero Beach. Connor McAdams, he built a brick paver pad for breast cancer awareness tractor named Hope for the Friends of LaPorte Farms. William Carley rebuilt the paver walkway leading to the flagpole, providing a safer and more appropriate surrounding base for the flagpole at the Sebastian Elks Lodge 2714. Sebastian is very fortunate to have these young men and future leaders contributing to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's appropriate to give them a round of applause. Thank you, Councilmember Nunn.
Thank you.
All right, we're on to the consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull any items from the consent agenda?
Mayor Dodd, I'd move approval of consent agenda items A through J.
Do I have a second?
I
Okay.
second that.
Wait,
No, I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Mayor, I just have a question. I was led, because when I got this agenda the other day, I was like, this is very ambitious agenda here. And I was led to believe that there was going to be, in case we didn't get through it all and have public input, there would be a continuation meeting starting tomorrow at 2. So I just wanted to make sure that we were still on for that.
Yeah, we're still on for that, but I don't, okay. That's a joke, I think. if you have-
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, I know we pulled a few items, but that's only 58 pages out of the 507 that are in my packet.
Exactly.
All right, so the consent agenda, we have a motion by Councilmember Hill, by Vice Mayor Hill, that items A through J be approved, and it was seconded by Councilmember Nunn. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Hill,
Yes.
Councilmember Jones,
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin,
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn,
Yes.
and Mayor Dodd.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, on to item 8, construction reports and appointments, or committee reports and appointments. It is the construction board. Unless waived, we have a couple of appointments to place on that. 8.
Mayor Dodd, I would move to leave Ms. Carbano in as the concerned citizen position and to appoint Nicholas Shasowski. Now, I had it right 5 times before this meeting. I'm sorry about that. To the electrical contractor position.
I second that. That's the only 2 that put in for
Yeah,
it. Is that correct?
That's correct. Okay, if there's no problems, by unanimous consent, we'll make those nominations. All right?
Agreed.
All right.
Yes.
It's done by unanimous consent. Public hearings, item C, Mr. City Manager.
I'll turn this over to Ms. Frazier, but this is our public hearing that we're required to do for our next entitlement program for our community development block grant program, and it requires a public hearing and a presentation of the plan. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Frazier.
Good evening, Council. The Housing Assistance Plan and Procedures 45-page document is an important document because it outlines the rules and regulations and policies for us to move forward in conjunction with HUD, as well as the, hopefully, the individuals in this community that we assist. The applications are out there now. We have received about 5 of them. We are working closely with the Veterans Council, Senior Resources, and now Habitat for Humanity to try to get even more individuals involved in this program.
Okay, I'd like to, let's let the city manager, the city attorney,
Oh,
I'm
I'm
not going
so
to do
sorry.
that.
Hi,
Let me let
Manny.
him read the resolution, please. Thank you,
so
Manny, for kicking in.
Thank you, sir. Can you guys hear me good?
Yes, we can.
Okay, resolution number R 20-26, a resolution of the City of Sebastian, Florida, approving the Community Development Block Grant, open paren, CDBG, close paren, Housing Assistance Plan and Procedure, open paren, HAPP, close paren, fiscal year 2020 through 2025, and authorizing the city manager to execute and transmit all documents to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, providing for conflict, providing for scrivener's error, and providing for effective date. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Ms. Fraser,
Thank you. I'm sorry for going out of order. I'm open for any questions if anyone has regarding this policy and procedures.
I just have one comment, and it's not really about this particular item, but just for people who are listening, we have 2 items on our agenda tonight that deal with assisting homeowners in the city. This is not the item related to rent or mortgage payment abatement loans or grants. This is for house repairs for people who are disabled or unable to do those repairs. So it's a separate issue. Just want to make sure everybody understood that.
That's correct.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone from the public like to address this issue? Is there anyone on Zoom?
No, sir, there's not.
Mr. Mayor, I just have one question. Is there somebody in the department for some of these individuals to help them through the grant process, the application? Because sometimes, it's easy for us, but it's not as easy for them.
Thank you for asking that. Yes, Michelle Faulkner and I work very closely with the applicants if they need assistance, but also our consultant, Guardian CRM. They have individuals, they have staff that have come into the building and worked with some applicants, as well as provided phone numbers if they need further assistance.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
No, Mayor Dodd, I'd move approval of resolution number R-20-26.
Second.
Your second, Bob? Okay. All right. We have a motion by Vice Mayor Hill to approve resolution R-20-26. It was seconded by Councilmember McPartlin. Does anyone have any comments about the motion? None? Okay, let's have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, now we're on to unfinished business. I won't skip you this time. Mr. City Attorney, would you please read the resolution? Item 10A.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number R 2019, a resolution of the City of Sebastian, Indian River County, Florida, adopting a COVID-19 recovery and stimulus plan, providing for a grant application process for mortgage and retail assistance, providing that the city shall be reimbursed for such grant with funds from the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security, open paren, CARES, close paren Act, federal stimulus package shared by Indian River County, authorizing the city manager to cause said plan to be put into effect, providing for repeal of resolution or parts of the resolution in conflict herewith, providing for scrivener's error, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, sir. Just one comment before I open it up for other discussion. In our agenda packet this evening is an application form. And that application form hasn't been finally approved, so there may be slight changes to it. So I would say to anybody in the public who is interested in this grant, you can look at this form online at the city within our agenda packet and just get an idea of the type of information, but please don't print it and fill it out and send it in, because it hasn't been finally approved yet, and I wouldn't want to slow down the processing for you if you do that, because it could do that, processing. Okay, Mr. City Manager, would you like to?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, for pointing that out. The county has recommended a couple minor changes since this was first put in the packet last week. Mr. Kilgore has made those modifications, and we have sent them over to the county, so it will not be available until the county approves the grant application as it is today. I commend Mr. Kilgore for going through that process and getting it out there. This is going to be a much-needed process, and we will expedite it as quickly as possible. One of the things under this item that council asked me to do at this meeting was talk about what funding we have spent so far and what's available for this program. And in your packet, you will see that salaries and to the city employees in relation to COVE services and duties is $82,028.45. Supplies and services, which is our hand sanitizers and our masks, and we have a temperature machine that we're getting set up now, $42,513.30. This one's pretty exciting. The business grant, $399,000 was spent in business and employment application grants. That's money went directly to our citizens and to our businesses to help them through this process, for a total expense of $523,541.75, with a remaining balance of $780,000.25. So with this and that's what's available today. And some of those will still be, some of that $400,000 will still be going towards funding someone to help administer this program. We've got a person that we're going to hire part-time to administer it. The county has their hands full. We had originally talked, when we had talked to council, about allowing the county to manage the housing program, but they are behind. They've got so many. So in our county managers meeting and city managers meeting with Jason on Friday, I said, I'd love to let you do it, but I see you're swamped, so we're going to take it over. And he didn't. He wished us well, because we're going to get a lot. But it's a great opportunity to help these businesses and these residents that are the residents that are behind in their mortgage and rent, and to get them caught up and not have to worry about facing eviction, hopefully. So it's up to $1,500 a month, up to $4,500. It mirrors the county, and there's a lot of documentation. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Kilgore for any other comments or any questions council may have, because he knows it much better than I.
Thank you. Just to clarify, this is only for residents. It has to be their primary residence, either mortgage or rent payments past due. So actually, I did not get it to the county yet. I was revising one of the forms yet.
Okay.
But I will right after I leave here. So I expect them to take a couple of days. I'm working with the consultant that we're employing to handle the grant, very reasonable fee, but we are working out basically an agreement with her. Looking forward to it. We've got some technological issues that we've got to, make sure the website is set up to handle the applications. Give the consultant access to the files. A lot of mechanical stuff we yet have to overcome. I think, or I hope, at least maybe by Monday, that we'll have it in place and posted on the website.
Okay, same question that Councilmember McPartland had about the last program. Is there someone that can assist people in filling out these forms?
What we hope to do, my experience with the business grant program convinced me that I cannot handle it along with my other responsibilities. So we did secure the services of a consultant. They would be able to dial a number to connect with her. She would be able to contact them. She would have access to the files and the submittals and would keep us updated basically on what was there. We would have access. It would all be our public records. So okay. I think we've covered that base so that she's got a part-time job, but it's not significant enough that she can't handle this on a part-time basis. Being focused on that, we're averaging, we figure 20 hours a week over a 12-week, 3-month period. So,
okay. And I'm assuming that before I ask, we approve this evening, then you don't need any further approval from us to hire your consultant and do that kind of stuff. You're not going to come back from us, right? Okay. You just kick it off. Does anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I would like to know, how are our residents being notified of this particular program for those that don't watch the meetings or go on the city website?
So we'll have it on our Facebook page, the PD Facebook page. And one of the things that we talked about earlier today was maybe just doing a blast out on Everbridge for people who signed up, which I hope everybody is signed up on our website for Everbridge, where we can send out notices when it comes to hurricanes and alerts. And we're going to talk about whether we can send that out through Everbridge, that notice. Comes up on a text message or an email, I'll put to that.
Are there funds in
Anybody
it?
else?
I'm sorry.
Well,
Are there funds in it that advertising could be used as a method of getting it out there?
I don't know that would be a problem. I'd have to look into it.
Okay. I do have one question about the grant. I noticed that council members and charter officers are not eligible for it. Is this something because of past ethics issues, or is this something the state recommended?
That was my wording, so.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's a good deal to do that.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. Bob, Ms. Parkman?
Well, I'm glad we have this program coming to us, and I'm glad we're hiring the part-time person. So whenever we do the advertising, if we can list that person's name and contact number.
Definitely.
And then I'm just wondering, is these one of those grants like FEMA? They're not going to come back later on if, say, because I see the no-income application, and I know in the past doing emergency food stamps for the Department of Children and Families, sometimes they come back to recoup some of that money because we were just quick to dole it out without absolutely verifying. So is this a grant that, it could come and then like FEMA 5 years later and say, you didn't do all the proper paperwork or the verification and may come back for?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, there's always a possibility with these
Yeah,
federal
okay.
funds. That's always a risk that you take when you administer these federal funds, and that they could come back and say, we don't recognize this audit as being, we're doing everything we can, running it by every professional we can. But even with FEMA, there's never a guarantee FEMA that they won't change the rules, just like HUD changed the rules with the CARE funding for our CDBG. There's always a possibility. I'm not going to say there's no risk of that, but there always is a possibility.
Okay, so if we just make sure that Mr. Kilgore trains whoever the consultant is who handles that process, I know he always watches the P's and Q's.
Well, I would add to that the consultant will compile the recommended payments. Before paying it, I would be reviewing the documentation to make sure that, in my opinion, it was,
Thank you.
And you know how hard it is to get a check out of him.
No, I know.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would just say that, this is an outstanding way to utilize these funds. I'm so happy to see that we were able to get them used in this way. And, the more people that use this, the better. And I hope everyone becomes aware of this program that's out there. As we start to sort of get back to normal, the governor has lifted a lot of the regulations that he had out there. And as things start to get back to normal and people start going back to work and trying to get back to normal life, there's a lot of different things that have happened over the last several months that have hurt people and could make it extremely difficult for them to continue on with a normal life, even though the wages will start over. So I hope that everyone in Sebastian that needs this assistance will get it and utilize it. It's certainly no shame in it, and what has happened wasn't the fault of the people that will need to utilize this. So please use it if you can. Also, we have in the room Andy Hodges from the Sebastian Daily, and I'm certain we can get an article free. That newspaper touches about 25,000 people, I believe, maybe 28,000, something like that. And so that's a good way to get the information out. So if you could get with the city manager, Mr. Hodges, and he would probably get you some information that we could get out on that, that'd be wonderful. So again, great job, staff, outstanding. I'm so happy that this money is being used to help those individuals.
Is anyone from the public would like to speak on this? Anyone on Zoom?
No, sir.
Okay.
Mayor Dodd, I'd proudly move approval of Resolution R-20-19.
Second?
No. Yes, okay. Yeah, you got the right number. A second?
Yes.
Bob.
Bob, okay. Before I call a vote, let me just basically repeat what Vice Mayor Hill said. They've already done away with the state program to stop evictions, and they're relying now on a program by the Centers for Disease Control that has eviction abatement tied to the direct threat of COVID. So please, if you're a resident of Sebastian and you've been impacted by COVID and you can use this help, don't wait to apply, because we don't know what the long term might be. So it's a great program, and I think the residents of Sebastian deserve the assistance that we can give with it. So any other comments, questions?
I do have one other thing to say. I know we have city employees that are hurting too, that have spouses that have been out of work, and I would hope that they would be eligible as well for this. Their families could be suffering as well.
So anybody that lives in the city is eligible, whether they're a city employee or not, except for charter officers and council.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's have a roll call, please.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, on to item 10B. Mr. City Manager?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, this is the phase 2 of our comp plan for 2040, which is hard to believe, but it is a reality. And so we're asking you to approve the agreement with Kimley Horn for phase 2, and also ask you to maybe schedule 2 workshops, and I think we want to call them public engagement, so we can allow the public the opportunity to come and talk. And I've talked to Lisa about setting tables up around the different edge perimeters and things of that nature, so the public can go and make comments or look at each element of the plan. But that's something we want to try to do, so that we can get more public input on this and try to move it forward and try to see how we can address density, low-income housing, and how we can move this forward, because this is a plan for the next 10 years. This doesn't affect zoning. It's only the broad scope of what the city's looking forward. And I'll turn it over to someone more knowledgeable than I, Ms. Frazier, for any questions you all may have.
You did fine, Mr. Carlisle. We're almost to the end. We're almost to the finish line, and that's why I wanted to kind of give you all a notification as to where we've been, where we're going, how we can finalize this plan. This timeline is posted on our website also for anybody else's information as far as all of the public hearings that we have held in regard to the comprehensive plan and those that we still need to do in order to bring it to the finish line. As Mr. Carlisle was stating, with this council's consensus, we can have 2 workshops and then have a final public hearing. We can have, well, I guess it wouldn't really work that way. 2 workshops and then a final public hearing, but because of the public notification process, I mean, we need at least 15 days to notify everybody before a public hearing. We request that you have a workshop and at the next meeting have the public hearing, if that makes sense to everybody.
Okay, is there a particular time frame you're thinking about for the workshops?
We have 2 more meetings this year. If you feel that those work, we can have it in November and December. We can move it. It's really up to this council as far as how far you want to push it out. We are, again, there's no fines or penalties from DEO. We just would not be able to entertain any other changes to the comp plan besides our 2040 plan until we get it in.
Okay, Council, we can discuss this. My personal preference is that we try to get it so as many people as possible can have input on this. I know that our boards, committees, natural resources, planning, zoning, Parks and Rec have all had an opportunity to look at it and comment on it. Mm-hmm. And I'd kind of like to, if it's possible, to recommend that we have maybe a workshop during the day and then one at night, So people who have a hard time attending something during the day, since these workshops are primarily for public input, they're not for council input, they're for public input. So if not all council members can attend the workshop, I don't think that's a detriment to that. But if we have one during the day for people who have a hard time coming out at night and attending meetings, attending workshops, and maybe have someone from the city facilitate that and not have it as a council meeting, but have it as a true workshop.
Public open, yeah.
Is that?
Open workshop, yeah, and, you know, if I'm not, it seems to me like we could do it, if I'm not mistaken, could we do like the workshop during the day on like the 11th and then of November, and then the one the one later in the day on the 18th before the council meeting?
I'm sorry, sir, but I believe that November 11th is Veterans Day, and we are not open on that day.
Okay. Well,
I'll
any
be
other
happy
day, I
to come
suppose,
in and
before
work, but
Yeah.
You are correct.
I mean, I personally think if we end up pushing into a January meeting, the council's final approval on the comp plan, we're not hurting ourselves any.
No.
And providing the input, giving the public, especially some of the organizations like the chamber, an opportunity to come in and have input into the comp plan is much better than us kind of try to speed through approving it, if we can do that. I would have hoped when I watched the board meetings that we would have had a little bit more input from people in the community at the planning zoning meeting and the natural resources meeting, for example. I don't know whether people felt like they could come to those meetings and comment or not. I really don't know, but we had very little, so I would hope we can get some excitement in the community to come in and talk about this. This is the umbrella under which everything that happens in this city for the next 20 years is going to occur. I mean, all the land development code is going to be modified based on this. Zoning things could be modified based on this. I mean, this is the picture of what you want the city to look like in the next 20 years. And as many people as were upset last fall about an annexation move, this comp plan is the place that you have to begin that feedback to the city. So I'm hoping we can get more people involved. I don't have a preference on a day, so anybody on the council who's, you know, some of you guys, some of your work, and Fred and I don't, but some of the rest of you do, so you might have, you might have some preferences on days in which you can attend a day meeting.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it doesn't, I mean, I'll either be able to or not, and I'll know as I approach, so I wouldn't, you know, say that it would matter for me. Again, like you said, I wouldn't necessarily have to be at both of the workshops. I mean, it is for public input, so it doesn't make a difference to me.
So what's happening tomorrow at the P&Z meeting on this?
They're doing their final review on it at the P&Z meeting tomorrow.
that is correct. And so the Land Planning Agency, the Planning and Zoning Commission, who sits as the Land Planning Agency, they are the legislated body that makes the final recommendation to the City Council. And so they have been reviewing this plan for months, and we believe we have received some really good input from the Planning Commission. I really have the highest regard for these individuals. They have read every single one, sometimes twice. And so they have given us a lot of good feedback. We feel that we've incorporated it into the final document, and the next step would be bringing it to you all. I'm happy to do workshop. I like the idea of one day, one evening. You capture a lot more individuals. And I will say that in our conversations with DEO, they would prefer we do not send it up to them until after the new year. They're a little swamped right now. So I don't think that would be a problem, having the final City Council approval in January. Please be aware that we send it out to all of our stakeholders in DEO, and they have 30 days to come back with comments. At that point, hopefully there aren't any large changes that will need to be made. We can make the changes quickly, bring it back to you, and get it finalized. But you do have 180 days, 6 months, to do that final approval.
And I will say, regrettably, given a perfect world and no COVID, these workshops would have happened a long time ago. We're actually right now trying to have community-based workshops after the committees have seen it, but we really couldn't have had workshops because of COVID and the impact of that. There would have been no way to do that. And now we can actually, I believe under phase 3, we can actually put 50 people in a room if we can feel comfortable doing that and people are comfortable doing that, so we can have a larger crowd to come in and do the workshops. And I know that it means that we can't, we're not asking people to wordsmith the document for us. We basically need people to talk about concepts and so forth, about that kind of stuff when they look at it. So what's the council's preference on setting the dates? Do we want to try to do that tonight, or would you like to let the city manager try to do that and coordinate it?
What's the earliest dates that we can start this?
Looking at the calendar, I think the November 9th to the 13th week is probably going to be the first real opportunity because of early voting and election stuff going on.
Well, we can't do anything as a council, I don't think, after November 3rd until after the 18th.
Right.
Because two of us will no longer be on council until then.
Okay.
So we have to probably wait until after the 18th
So after
to
the
do
18th
that.
Meeting?
Yeah, is that,
That puts us
I'll
towards
let Manny
Thanksgiving.
kick in on that one if he feels like he needs to, but I think we'd have an issue between November 3rd and the 18th with that. So it looks like to me that we're probably talking about going into the first week in
It's
December.
gonna be December, yeah.
The last week in November, first week in December.
Right.
Probably don't want to do it the week of Thanksgiving, though.
No, because our council meeting the week of Thanksgiving's been changed to the 18th anyway, so we're not.
Right.
Is the first week in December reasonable for everybody
Yeah,
to try to do the first one?
No, that's fine for me.
certainly.
Okay. And then maybe the week of the 7th. We do have a council meeting on the 9th of December, so we could have the evening one. Well, we can't, because we can't have a meeting before 5 o'clock, can we? No, we could have this before 5 o'clock.
Right.
Yeah, we'd have a workshop before 5 o'clock. So we could try to do that second workshop with the evening one on the 9th?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I mean, if you so desire, I think that possibly that's what Councilman Hill was directing, that we have it on the same day. I've often done that in my former life, where you have, because then you only set up once. So you set up once for the daytime.
That's fine.
And then
Okay.
at night, it's still there, and you just reconvene and try to capture. I really appreciate Mr. Carlisle's vision of getting the public engagement and also meeting COVID criteria by setting up individual tables with information for all of the elements and having staff here to answer questions. And I think that would really, really benefit everyone. We can separate everyone, at the same time get their feedback.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
So what do you anticipate as far as the amount of time it's going to take to have the second workshop?
Well, I would assume the first and second workshop would be about the same, about an hour. I mean,
About an hour,
we
right.
can.
That's what I would think too. So, I mean, the worst case scenario, 4:30, maybe 5 o'clock. I mean, that way, then we could set the council meeting for 6, and we've gone over the 6 o'clock time period before and just started the meeting a little bit late. So, if we could just start that at 5, do the workshop at 5, and then just go right into a council meeting with the final reading on it.
Yeah, I kind of hesitate about the 1 hour. It might be 1 hour, but it might be 3. It depends on whether people actually come in and get actively involved, so.
Well, and if I may, I'm hesitant to have the workshop the same day that I bring this back to you all
Oh, yes,
for your
yes.
adoption, because if there's any changes that we might want to add, or at least suggest to the council for their consideration, then we will need time to prepare that. So there's a dance that we're doing. I just want to make sure that you're all involved in this dance.
I think we can set tonight the fact that you're not going to bring it back to us for our final approval until January.
I would prefer, and so would DEO, quite frankly.
Yes,
so.
that you won't bring it back to us until either the first or second week in January, whichever one it best fits the way it works. So which means that the workshops, you'll have plenty of time after the workshops to deal with that.
But we could still have the meeting and then the workshop and then a council meeting following.
Yeah.
Without the final reading.
Without the final reading, yes.
I'd be happy to do
Or we
that.
could have the two
Absolutely.
workshops on a different day and have
Absolutely.
one in the morning, 10 o'clock, 10:30, something like that, and one in the afternoon at 2 or 3, and have ample time for people who, if in fact there are people who want to communicate. just in my past experience in doing this kind of stuff, you never know. You might need 3 hours because there might be enough people come in and want to talk about it. So you might need that period of time. And the worst thing you can do is say, oh, time's up. You know, so. Is there a day that first week in December that, do you want to pick a day? How about December the 3rd, Thursday?
There we go.
How does that look?
Perfect.
Sounds good.
And you want to do that in the morning?
Yeah,
10
but
o'clock?
basically, you're gonna have two during that day. You're gonna have a morning, one mid-morning and one late afternoon or early evening during that day.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, people who, I mean, we have a lot of residents who might be involved that really don't like to drive at night, and I get people complain to me all the time about why we don't have a meeting during the day because they don't like to drive at night. Well, with Zoom now, they can watch the meetings, you know, so, or be involved in them if they like to.
So you got 10, and then you got to be, do you want to be after 5? Because you got people working.
Yes, I would say the evening one should be after 5.
Yeah,
It'd probably
I
be
agree.
at 6 o'clock, yeah.
So
And
the
then-
same day.
Yeah, and then the day one could be either mid-morning or mid-afternoon.
Sounds
Up
good.
to, whatever it is scheduled. You gotta decide how you're gonna facilitate it, who's gonna do the facilitation.
Oh,
I don't know whether you plan on doing that or whether you're gonna get,
yeah, what Jeanette's trying to tell me is that P and Z is the 3rd of December. But, I mean, we can make it, we can work with city clerk to come up with a date.
that's fine.
If that's fine with
yeah.
y'all.
Yeah, that's fine.
And
Is that okay with everybody?
typically,
Yeah.
workshops, we try to capture people's lunch hour. So, 11 to 1, and then go back again in the evening and do, 5 to 7 or something to that
Okay.
effect, if
All
you're
right.
all comfortable with that.
Okay, so you guys will work out a day
There you
that first week in December. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Perfect.
And there really isn't any action item on this, is there, that we need?
Yeah, you need to award the
Oh, yeah,
CFA
contract.
agreement,
Okay.
$25,100 for phase 2, if there could be a motion and public comment.
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed.
So a motion on the not-to-exceed contract?
Which one?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember McPartland, seconded by Vice Mayor Hill. All in favor? No, that's $25,000. Need a roll call.
We need a public comment, Mr. Mayor.
The public?
Oh, public input. Anyone from the public like to talk about anything? Yes, sir, you may come up.
A big empty space here. My name is Graham Clark, 1213 George Street. I think I'd be one of the few people who has made any comments to Lisa on the comprehensive plan. And I've suggested, and she's going to throw something at me when I suggest it again, that there are two opportunities to explain the basic concepts of the plan. One is to do maybe a 10-minute video that can play constantly through your TV set in here and over your city communications line, your channel. 10 minutes. You've got hours and hours of video already from the presentations, and it might well be that you can go to that and boil it down to the few concepts you want to say on the thing. The other is you've got Andy Hodges sitting right here, who, if he wants to do the city a favor, could maybe do a short summary of what it is and encourage all your readers on it to get out there and come in here and comment. There's a lot of meat and a lot of good stuff in this plan, but people really got to be persuaded with a baseball bat that, yeah, they're going to come and look at this.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say on that topic.
Thank you. I think that's a great idea, actually, I really do. We might even, if the city manager wants to twist his arm, you might even twist Mr. Hodges into filming it and letting the city have a copy of his film.
He's not making any money tonight.
Yeah, it's costing you. But I think that's a great idea. I think a lot of people, I agree 100% that a lot of people really don't understand how the comp plan fits into the overall city planning process and how important it is to the overall city planning process. So I do think that's a good idea. So let's have a roll call on the motion, please. Oh, is anyone else in the public? Anyone on Zoom? I'm sorry?
Just on this item.
No. Okay.
Sorry.
No one, sir.
Okay. Let's have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Nunn,
Yes.
Mayor Dodd,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hill,
Yes.
Councilmember Jones,
Yes.
Councilmember Parkland.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, and just for anybody who's listening, this comp plan is on the city's website, and you can go out there and get a copy of it, download it, read it, look at it, whatever you want to do to get a feel for it. So try to do that. Okay, we're on to item number C, please, 10C.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, at the previous meeting, council asked us to work with Ms. Cole for Celebrate Sebastian special event for November 14th in Riverview Park. There's two minor changes to this agenda summary. One is the time is noon to 8, and it is also only a $1,000 cost to the city now. And so we'd ask the city council their comments, suggestions, thoughts on approving this. What we've committed to from the city is to provide the sound stage and extra PD for the event. And that's as much as the city has promised to do for the event. As far as road closures, we're not anticipating any, or closing of any of the boat ramp parking or the boat ramp for this event.
Okay. Any comments from the council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So I thought it said 1,500 on the original paperwork, so the $1,000 is employee cost, labor, just specifically?
For the PD and for setting up the trailer, the stage, sorry.
Okay. Thank you. Just clarifying.
Anyone in the public like to address this issue? Ma'am?
Hi, Sharon Herman from Sebastian. And I just want to say that this is a celebration for our city. We've missed the Clam Fest. We missed our 4th of July. The fireworks were exceptional for Labor Day, but we missed the rest of the festivities. And we really need something. We've had a rough year between COVID and the council and the flooding and everything that's been going on. We really need something that just says, hey, people, come on out. Wear your mask, don't wear your mask, whatever. But come and let's join together as a community again. I know that's probably a little more cost than the city had anticipated, for having this. But a lot of the other costs have been covered by donations and things, and I just really think it's really important for our city to do this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public like to address this? Okay, anyone on Zoom?
There is not.
All right. Do you need a motion for this, or?
You have to approve it
You have
because
to
it's over
approve the
300
expansion.
people.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I approve, I make a motion that we approve the celebration on November the 14th from noon to 8 p.m.
All right.
I'd like to second that.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Jones, seconded by Councilmember Nunn. Not Nuns, Nunn. Any comment from the council? I think we can do that with a voice vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, passes 5-0. All right. Now, we're up to public input. Anyone from the public that would like to address the council on matters not on the agenda, would you please come forward? And if you want to line up, would you, whoever's at the mic, next person do the X marks down there for us, if you would. And would you give us your name and your place of residence? You don't need your address.
Oh, okay. My name is Carrie Wilson, and it's Sebastian.
Okay.
Okay. I wanted to talk about, I know the masking will be coming up here maybe next month, and I just wanted to tell you really quick, the life of a mother with 2 special needs children. And you guys say that it's just a mask and it's no big deal and go ahead and put it on and no one should have a problem. I went in to get my children's blood work this morning and we were denied entry into a doctor's office, to get blood with a doctor's medical exemption. we carry them around our neck. We were denied. There was no reasonable accommodation for that. The woman would not even let us in with a shield. I have a daughter with severe anxiety, and I had to get her behavioral analyst up early to come with us, not letting my daughter have food or water so that she can fast for it. She had an anxiety attack the entire way there to get blood, and we were denied entry because of, to me, it's like an emergency order that was only supposed to last 28 days. Now we're 7 months into it. Then after this, I went to the bookstore to buy my kids books so I can homeschool them, and I was denied entry. After arguing our ADA stance, they let us in, but only for a limited time, and they were very rude to us, and the man at the door was arguing with my child who is autistic. Now let me get to the school. My children are unable to wear a mask or even a shield without consequence to their health, and my 6-year-old was eating his shield during the day at school because he's autistic, and my 10-year-old is now failing because even with a medical exemption, it took me a month to get these shields off of their faces. Why is this? So the government can continue to get the CARES Act money. For you, it's about the money, and for me, it's about countless other families and mine, and it's about our health. When did the media stop actually reporting the news and start becoming part of the political special interest group? It's when did our city councilmen and women start becoming the problem instead of fixing them? And why do I have to stand at meetings like this over and over again begging for my own rights? We the people need to reclaim control over these issues and stop the corruption behind it. I'm not sure if you're aware now, they have something called mask mouth. When you wear a mask all day, it decreases your, it dries out and it decreases your saliva, causing bacteria. I now have friends who have children with yeast infections and cysts that need to be lanced, and you're wearing these all day, and you're requiring employees to wear this all day, and it's just really bad for your health. And I've personally walked into a local restaurant with my daughter. I was not asked or told to do anything. However, the police were called on us. We walked in, they didn't tell us to put on a mask, or they didn't ask us to leave. They called the police, and I now have a restraining warning on me for no reason. So I'm just asking you to please drop the mask and executive orders when it comes to it and look into this a little more closely.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Good evening, council members. My name is Ruth Kovaleski, and this evening I represent myself and 700-plus concerned citizens of the Facebook group known as Indian River Freedom Coalition. We would like to address the state of emergency declaration, which is in effect within the city of Sebastian. This new council has a unique opportunity to, well, let's call it maybe course correct the COVID-19 response. You are seated, and I'm glad to see the faces up there that are now seated. I appreciate that. In the position to evaluate what has happened and to be able to make changes with hindsight in your rearview mirror, something that the prior members did not enjoy, and I appreciate that as well. So let's look at from tomorrow forward. First, welcome to day 218 of the promised 14 days to flatten the curve. Secondly, let's talk about survival rates for COVID-19. According to the CDC website, and I have that information right here for you all, COVID-19 has a 99.99% survival rate at age 50 and below. 50 to 69 is 99.95%. And even considering all of the overinflated or falsely documented deaths, if we take those all with comorbidities, people over 70 years of age still reflect a survival rate of 95%. I know this is hard to believe, but that is better than the current survival rate for tuberculosis in many areas of our country. That survival rate is 94% from 2017 to today, and some areas of our country are at 8.1% death rate. So obviously that's much higher than COVID-19. Yet, I don't recall us wearing masks since 2017, being shut down, nor did we ruin our small businesses and our economy. The CDC states to better fight that, TB, they need to educate. Nothing about wearing masks, being shut down. Additionally, see this chart here from the CDC website right now. This shows that our annual death rates, according to the CDC, including everything, COVID, nothing separated, is right now on track to be less than it was last year. That would include everything we're dealing with right now. So to me, clearly, that would show us that we are not or no longer in a pandemic. Nor do we have our hospitals in urgent need of being overwhelmed. Most times we have 3 people or less in our ICUs. And the order never intended for us to shut down, that I read that you all did, until a vaccine or until there were no cases at all. The health director here in our county agrees, and our governor clearly shows this in actions. Yet I realize the CARES Act money just seems tempting to continue an emergency until we get every benefit we can for our city, and I do appreciate that as well. But the problem is the taxpayers, as you just heard, one, are paying dearly both medically, emotionally, and financially. Know that this is said with absolute due respect for all 5 of you, first of all, but here are some of the laws with criminal penalties you may be charged with if it's determined there was no emergency. Federal laws include Title 18 U.S. Code 1038, false or misleading information relating to conducting hoaxes. In this case, the hoax would be there was no emergency. Title 18 Code 1040, fraud in connection with major disaster or emergency benefits. If you are in any way declaring and continuing the state of emergency by refusing to lift it, only to get funding, that is a crime. Why this criminal code? Because the state of emergency was given to elected officials only as a last resort and was listed as 14 days without major reevaluations to stop disaster fraud from happening, to stop tyrannical leaders who force the public to be burdened beyond the point of despair.
30 seconds, please.
Okay, would the council grant me 1 minute to finish? Since I represent 700 people?
Yes, go ahead. Anyone have a problem with that?
Thank you so much.
No? Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Florida Statute 458.327 applies concerning practicing medicine without a license. We don't have doctors available, and we are putting a medical device, according to the FDA, on people's faces by your recommendation and mandate. So I would ask that you would please lift any emergency order that you have, and I would ask that you consider that from our group, Indian River Freedom Coalition. Thank you very much.
Anyone else in the public would like to address this? Ma'am?
Sharon Herman again, Sebastian. I think most of y'all know I'm a retired registered nurse, and I understand, Ruthie, and some of the concerns. You know, the state statistics are skewed. We know that. Masks only really help if both people are wearing them. The masks that 90% of the people are wearing right now are really more of an emotional support mask than they're certainly not a medical mask. If you have 2 people and they're both wearing masks, the mask only keeps the germs sort of to the person that's wearing them. Doesn't protect the person that's across from them. So I understand a lot of those things. We've got our elderlies and our high-risk patients. But most of the issues that I'm hearing seem to be more federal and political issues, you know, than council issues. I understand that we get a lot of funding, you know, for the COVID thing. I'm not sure when it becomes our issue to decide to say it's no longer an emergency or no longer a problem. You know, the governor's opened our state up. Are we at that point as well? I know our numbers are low, but I don't know. But I think that's something that maybe we'd need to consider, you know, as well as the other things. I don't know if there's a way for you to modify maybe some changes that says, you know, it can be up to an individual business or whatever to require the masks. I think it's kind of like that now, but everybody's kind of said, oh, it's up to everybody, but everybody's doing it, so we're going to require them too. Because I think some of the things that Ms. Wilson went through, I think are horrific, you know, especially on the medical side of it, and I think that should never, ever, ever occur no matter what. Just my thoughts.
Okay. Anyone else?
Hi, Andrea Ring. I live here in Sebastian. I've always been against the wearing of masks because I am hard of hearing, and the people, I need to see your lips moving in order for me to understand what you're saying. A lot of people have gone to the shield, which helps a lot, but I've always thought that the masks were, like you said, a placebo. We are just fooling ourselves, thinking that we are stopping the virus. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone on Zoom?
I have 2 people so far.
Okay, bring one of them on, please.
Robert Stevens.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations, Council, for succeeding in your recent election, for the time being anyways. I'd like to know something, you know. You see, I'm dying of COPD. A couple of years ago, I got the drift of 2 spray boats that came by the back of my house, and I was put in the hospital, and I couldn't breathe for 6 months. Now I'm still struggling. Why are you trying to kill me? I mean, why are you going to spray again? I don't understand this. You never even gave Audubon, anybody else, a chance to help you with mechanical and other ways of dealing with this canal situation.
Yes. This is on the agenda. I don't, just for a point of order, this is on the agenda for later, and I just wonder if Mr. Stevens wishes to speak on the actual agenda item.
Okay, Mr. Stevens, you know this is on the agenda. If you'd like to get back in at the agenda point, that would be appropriate. Do you have a problem with that?
No, Mr. Mayor, but I just want to make sure you understand that, you know.
Yeah.
This is the way to go, my friend. This is, you know, I mean, I got to sell my house now. I got to get out of there. This is the house of my dreams, my wife's dreams. And you're going to say you're going to spray again.
Okay, well, this is one of the agenda items. I'd kind of like to bring your comment in at that point in time instead of under public comment, if you don't mind.
Put the words around. I'm done.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Thank you, sir. Next person.
Michael Peters.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening. It's Michelle Peters from Sebastian, Florida. And I just wanted to say that I understand.
And she's coming back. Michelle?
We lose her.
Yeah, momentarily. Michelle? All right, I have her there, but I can't hear her.
You can't hear her? Okay.
No.
All right. Maybe, Michelle, if you can hear us, you might be muted.
Well, she just completely left.
Okay, she's gone. All right. Does council have a problem, anyone else from the public? Anyone on Zoom?
No, I'm done.
All right. Does council have a problem if I spend just a second and address the mask thing?
Mayor Dodd, I would prefer to agendize this at the next meeting.
Okay, that's fine.
Because if we could just put it on the agenda for the next meeting, and we could have a real open, positive discussion.
Yeah. I just want people to know we don't have a regulation in Sebastian that mandates masks. I just want to make people understand that, because the people that all came up apparently thought we did. We do not.
For businesses, we do.
We do for businesses.
For businesses, we do.
If the business chooses to do that.
No.
No, we do for employees who can't social distance. Yes. Yes. So, thank you. All right, we'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting and discuss at that point in time. Okay, now we're on item number 12A, new business. This is a presentation. This is most of the pages in this monstrous book. This is a presentation on the stormwater master planning process. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, as part of our stormwater master plan, we did an RFQ for consulting engineers to present to us their methodology and thought process for moving this forward, as we have budgeted $200,000 in our program, and we are actively seeking another $600,000 in a grant that we have a pretty good idea that we will get, and that will give us $800,000 to move this project forward. And we'll work with, under continuing service agreements with this firm if it's awarded, to start that process. And they're here to give you a brief presentation on their abilities. One of the things we hope that happens with this master plan is it will allow us, and they have a great reputation of getting federal funds or state funds to help us with our overall stormwater issues once a true master plan is developed. Mr. Kilgore. Griffin.
You can go to that table over there if you'd like, if you'd rather sit down.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I thank you all for having us here. I want to apologize because there was a misunderstanding, so we really don't have a presentation. But I am here to represent Arcadis, and so is my area leader, Melissa Pomales. Sorry. My name is Freddie Betancourt. I am the proposed project manager. Will be the project manager for the city of Sebastian. We are delivering the services out of the Maitland office. We do have a couple of local business partners included in our proposal that would be assisting with this project. Arcadis itself is a global firm. We have national leaders, and then we have local people distributed throughout the state. We've done work in the state since about 100 years ago, so we've been around for quite a while. As part of this project, we bring the national leaders that will be able to work with the city. We know that the city has made past investment with the comprehensive plan, vulnerability assessments. There's also been a seawall assessment. Our intent is not to reinvent the wheel. We're going to create the basis of all those documents that you have. And we do have a unique methodology that will have digitalization included into it to create a living document that the city will be able to do future updates a lot easier. As city administrator mentioned here, we do have a dedicated funding team. We've done more than $5 billion worth of federal funding. In Florida alone, over the last 10 years, over $100 million. And the focus of this is really to go from just a master plan update to be able to do the implementation. We have a unique approach. We ourselves are reviewers of the federal grants, so we know the process. We have a unique cost-benefit analysis that has been proven, particularly where there's repetitive losses. And we also have a top-down approach where we have Pickering Engineering, who would be able to help us with direct federal funds from the top down.
Okay. Anyone have any questions?
No, I would just say that we've pretty much been given a 250-page presentation. So I mean, if you've gone, I mean, I've gone through the documents and it's stellar, and it's what you guys provided us is outstanding, and it's really what the city of Sebastian has needed for a very long time. We've gone through the master planning process many times, and I'm excited to see someone coming in that actually knows what the heck a master plan looks like and is. So I think this is money extremely well spent, and I look forward to the additional dollars that are going to be brought to the city once you guys get to work for us in DC.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments.
Anyone else have any comments, questions?
No, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, I'll throw it.
Okay, now we're going to have a meeting at 2 o'clock tomorrow.
You know, we're looking at what, $800,000 will be the total cost for this plan?
That's what we're going after, is the additional 600 plus the 200 match that the city has. So it'd be 800,000 to be available, and we'll negotiate with them. So we haven't, once this contract is awarded, that's when you do the negotiation for fees and services.
Okay, and I went through the whole document, and I understand it'll be a very comprehensive plan, but can somebody show me maybe a ballpark figure just to put it in my noggin right now? How much costs we're looking at down the road? And like a lot of that federal funding grant opportunities we might have out there, are they on a 50-50 split or a 90-10 like we do?
Well, I would just throw out there that, Oh, I'm sorry. I would throw out there, I know this is a heck of a lot of money. Now, this is a big nut to swallow, but the fact of the matter is, no matter what the cost to do the repairs, the city needs to do the repairs. We got to figure out what's wrong first, And just the repairs of the canal walls alone on the south side of 512 is running around $25 million. And so that doesn't even solve the issue of the entire waterways and the drainage system. We've seen over the last few months issues with our drainage, and everyone has issues with their front yard swales during this summer because it's just been a nightmare. But I just believe that, you know, when we concern ourselves right now with what the future costs will be, those future costs will be determined by what the city needs. And so the only way we can actually pinpoint what the city needs is to have something like this done. And then the beauty of this plan is that they will assist us in finding future grant dollars that will ease the burden on the citizens of Sebastian. So I understand your concern, Mr. McFarland, because it's a heck of a lot of money. But, you know, if you're saying $800,000 and it truly turns out to be $200 funded by $200,000 by the city, and then the future $600 by matching grant dollars, and then you start already seeing where we're going to be solving the major issues we have in the city. And infrastructure is one of the things that are major. Drainage is major. Then we have to actually know what the problems are before we can fix them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I agree with you, the plan needs to be done, but I know in the past when we looked at the canal walls at $25 million, we were looking at spending half the money. Right. So we do the plan, they're not just gonna give us the booklet, drop it off on our desk, and then they're gone. Right. They're gonna be available, and those are fees you'll be going down the road so they could procure that extra money.
Correct, and that's part of was part of the request for qualifications, is their ability, the firms, whatever firm was submitting, their ability to get federal appropriation funds. And those usually don't come with matches. And I mean, everything is different, but the facts are, the plans that we've had in the past were just a book on how to maintain a stormwater system. What I've stressed before, what I want to see is a true master plan like I've done in the past, where you identify, and I've said it before, you identify drainage basins and how the water's going in and how it's supposed to go in and where it was designed to go. Is it functioning as it was designed? We know, based on these last rains, there's obstructions and possible flows that are going in the wrong areas and impacting other areas because of other issues. Until we identify those choke points and those drainage points, we're never going to fix this problem by just saying we're going to fix this pipe without knowing what it does down the road, upstream and downstream. That's what a master plan does. It goes over the entire system, divides it up into segments, and sends the water where it needs to go and finds all those choke points.
Well, I will say that without completing the plan, and I don't hear you say you don't want to do the plan, so I understand that. Without completing the plan, we can't determine what the cost is. Correct. Once I think that the citizens of Sebastian need to understand that this is going to be probably one of the largest expense items that we've had to deal with as a city before it's over with, because it's at the point where it was not designed properly in the first place when the city was laid out. I'm not talking about when the city was laid out in 1890. I'm talking about when General Properties came in here, or General Development came in here and did their thing. It wasn't laid out correctly. We have no idea, like you're saying, if the water's flowing to the right points or if it's not. There's low points where water's flowing to that we may have to put structures in and mechanically move that water because it won't go naturally without that. So until we know that information, we're not going to know exactly what we have to do to fix it. And even with the success ratio that these guys have in getting grant money, this is still probably going to be one of the largest expense items that the city's had to face in a long time. And the only way we're going to correct, I've had some conversations with the city manager about this, and I've expressed this to him. We can't piecemeal correct this stormwater system. We have to correct the entire system, or it won't work. We've tried to piecemeal it, and it won't work. It keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse because what we try to do is piecemeal and piecemeal and piecemeal and piecemeal. This is kind of like, you go in the hospital because you're having chest pains, and the doctor decides he's going to give you narcotics and send you home. Well, you don't have pains anymore, but has he fixed your problem? And what we've done is we've done that. We've done morphine injections in our stormwater system. And for the residents, they need to understand it's going to be a major item. And once we get the plan together, hopefully we can get as much money as we can get from entities outside of Sebastian, but we're going to have to be prepared to fund. And I honestly, the 2000 what was it, 2015 study on the canal walls, talked about $25 million. I think if that same company did a study on a canal wall today, it'd probably be $40 million. So I have no idea where it's going to go, but it's going to be very expensive. And I think once we do the plan, then we can begin that process of deciding how we go after it. But we're not going to be able to piecemeal it anymore. The reason it gets worse and worse and worse is we've been trying to piecemeal it and trying to get it to work that way, and it just doesn't work. It's impossible to blame this on grass and canals. I know we didn't get a cut part this year because of COVID, but our current water problems have just continually gotten worse, and we can't continually blame it on the fact that we have grass in canals or grass in ditches. It's because this whole system itself is almost at a tipping point. It's kind of like the Arctic ice melting, it's at a tipping point, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. And I think we're going to have to fix it. And the council, whoever is on the council at that point in time, is just going to have to make a very hard decision to do that. So, and I agree with you. I'd love to know how much it is today, but I'm afraid of how much it'll be, but it's going to be there.
Right, I was just hoping somebody just throw a number in my head, because every hangar we built out at the airport, we match 10%, we get 90%. I mean, I understand they've gotten $500 million over the years for some of these programs, but how much do the municipalities lay out for that $500 million? Was it $3 trillion? Or you tell me, no, they only laid out $50 million, I'm a lot happier.
Yeah. It's going to depend on what programs they are, because they all vary. Some could be 50-50, some could be no match. Depending on federal appropriations, there could be no match. It could be a 5% or 10% match, like with FAA. There's a gamut of grant programs out there. Obviously, the more money we can get without having to invest our money is always best, but that's not always going to be a reality.
Yeah, and I would also inject that the political winds blow very quickly and in many directions, and we need to strike as quick as we can, because I'll tell you, the Indian River Lagoon is not going to be that important to the politicians in the future at some point in time. And when it becomes less important to them, the money goes away. And so my opinion would be that even if we can't get the $600,000 grant, we should do this. We have to do it because we know that today there's federal money and there's state money, because of the lagoon is a very high priority item on a lot of people. But when the political pendulum swings away from that and the lagoon is no longer the item, they're not going to have money for us. Mm-hmm. So we have to really move on this quickly to get that money. So, anybody from the public have comments on this? Anybody on Zoom?
No, sir.
And I would like to, you're looking for a motion that we approve you to move forward with this. Correct. And you're gonna move forward as you get the grant money applied to do it, right? Correct. Okay. So you're asking us for $200,000.
Second.
Mm-hmm. You moved?
I moved.
And second?
Me.
Fred. Okay. So we have a motion by Councilmember Partlin and seconded by Councilmember Jones. Anyone else have any comments? No, sir. Let's have a voice vote, please.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, we're now on to item 12B. Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just for everyone's clarification, what we want to do is get to a point where we can get these canals back in place. You know, there's a public perception that we just want to spray and that's all we're doing. You know, our in-house crews have spent a month and a half on Collier Creek Canal, reestablishing the canal from 512 to South Easy Street. It was a completely clogged ditch. It's now back to its original cross slope. It did what we talked about doing. Our crews did what we talked about doing when I gave my report. We need to go in there and reestablish the canal. Well, we did it in-house. And so we feel that we're still honoring that. That was all manual. That was backhoes and dump trucks. And, you know, our crews, you know, sweat equity labor to get that done. And we've done it. That can't be the only tool, because there's areas we can't get that equipment to. We also have an issue with some of this vegetation is going to clog up these outfalls, the weir structures at 512 at the Hardy Park and the weir structures at the outfall into the St. Sebastian River at Joy Haven and the Concha Dam. That's all issues that we have to be concerned with. We need to address it, and we've done as much manual as we can, and we're going to continue to do manual along with this. So to say all we're going to do is spray, 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 that's a misrepresentation of the facts. It's always been a misrepresentation of the facts. We've always followed the guidelines, regardless of what opinions may be out there, and we just need to be able to address some of these areas and get them back in shape.
Okay, and you're talking here about spraying the Whackout Weeds product.
Yeah, the non-glyphosate, non-2,4-D.
Even though I know we're going to talk about integrated pest management plan in our next item, actually that is an item that's listed in the integrated pest management plan as an acceptable item to be used in these cases.
That's correct.
So it would be considered a best management practice for us to do that with the Whackout Weeds product. So,
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to motion on item 12B that we lift the spraying moratorium to allow our extremely competent city staff to address the issues around our city that need addressing. That doesn't mean a free-for-all spray of everything. They are working with the product WOW now that is a method that is even exempted from EPA registration for its natural ingredients. But if this product doesn't take care of the issues, they need to have the authority to do their job and use the next level, least toxic alternative to solve their problems the city has. With this being said, there are many ditches that are filled with weeds and cut grass debris that needs to be manually removed so that our stormwater system can properly work. City Manager, do we have equipment that can handle cleaning out those ditches?
Yeah, we've reached out to get some quotes on some additional, in fact, one of the proposers are here tonight at this meeting to try to get some additional equipment and try to get ahead and rent some other equipment to help mow the ditches with the contractor and to excavate some of the ditch bottoms.
Okay, awesome. Well, we have an IPM plan that we're going to hopefully approve as the next item that our IPM committee has put together and our Natural Resources Board and Parks and Recs boards have already approved. The city can get back to work making our parks safe again and our stormwater management swales, ditches, and canals work as designed, along with hopefully a stormwater plan that we're working on as well. So my motion is to lift the spraying moratorium and allow the city staff to work on correcting the city issues as per the City of Sebastian IPM plan.
Second.
Okay, anyone from the public like to address this? Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Tim Glover, President of the Friends of St. Sebastian River, and first off, I'd like to thank the city for the time and effort you've put into looking for alternatives to just using the toxic herbicides in the canals. My understanding is that there's a committee that's working on a integrated pest management plan specifically for the canals, and I don't know how that fits in with this motion. I don't know if they provided any input this time, but it seems like there probably would be a recommendation there from them on this kind of a topic. If the decision is made to move forward with some sort of spraying, any kind of chemical, there still is the issue of the vegetation. Once it dies and settles the bottom, it contributes to the muck, and ultimately will impact the Indian River Lagoon. Segments of the St. Sebastian River are still considered impaired, meaning that they don't meet the state water quality standards. And mostly it's for dissolved oxygen, low dissolved oxygen levels, which is what the muck contributes to. There's been some comments in the local media I've noticed on this issue that has been going on with the moratorium in the last year, suggesting that it probably is a crisis or a disaster. My observation would be that Mother Nature being Mother Nature is not a crisis nor is it a disaster. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public like to address this? Anyone on Zoom?
I have two on Zoom. Ruth Callahan.
Hi, this is Ruth Callahan from Sebastian. I wanted to just give a couple rundown facts. So the product that is being discussed was definitely on the IPM plan for the Parks and Recreation. And I know that the city has done a city-led study to determine the effectiveness of that product. I wanted to point out, and I'm actually attending in support of the IPM plan for the Parks and Rec and had involvement in that through the Natural Resources Board. But I wanted to comment that that Parks and Rec plan specifically discusses the use of the product on land. The Parks and Recs stay away from bodies of water 10 feet. They have a 10-foot buffer involved in the use of that specific product. The EPA does not have any interest in evaluating the product at the current moment. It doesn't contain ingredients that are not naturally occurring. And just because ingredients are naturally occurring does not mean there is not toxicity. So toxicity could occur to organisms that are contained in the bodies of water that would be sprayed. I looked up and did a few searches on the main ingredient, which is peppermint oil, and they have found that it has had some harmful effects known to specific species. So these are species, the study was done outside the United States, but what it did show was that there are some organisms that do have an effect from that peppermint oil being exposed to peppermint oil. And so I just wanted to say what we do not have is an IPM plan that involves bodies of water, as the gentleman just before me commented. This plan that we are looking at as the next agenda item is for Parks and Rec, which kind of stays away from any bodies of water. And I know that you all, I think in some of the wording, the language of what was in your agenda talked about something being organic. And I wanted to make the clarification that, you know, a lot of people use the word organic, and it can have two meanings. One meaning, you know, with FDA, the Federal Food Administration, that they look at foods as being organic if they don't have any use of chemical sprays and such on them. And then there's the chemist definition, as I will call it, of organic, which really is, it has carbon and hydrogen contained in it. So if you look at gasoline, you have an organic compound. So all pesticides, whether they are naturally occurring or synthetically made, by definition, are organic compounds. So I just wanted to make sure that that statement was out there. I applaud the efforts that were done during the spraying moratorium and until we could come and do the appropriate legwork to study each of these products and how they affect, you know, how they will be used. And my main concern for you moving forward is relative to what is the concentration? How much are you going to apply? I'm not sure that that's clear in anything that you're talking about. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next person.
Robert Stevens.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
And go ahead.
Am I on?
Yes.
Looks like I had to unmute again. Okay, for a couple things going on here, and the reason I spoke up at public input, Mr. Mayor, was the way Mr. Nunn worded that thing was, oh, if that doesn't work, he can go a little further with more sprays. I don't think you're realizing what 20 years of spraying those canals is done. I don't, you know, you said that there was a problem after they cleaned up the canal stuff. Well, there's some problems from 21 years of spraying here. You know, you don't understand that. And the other thing, Mr. Mayor, is I've never seen your city manager, your stormwater manager, at any of the symposiums, any of the seminars, and some of the seminars were right here in your house to educate us on what to do with water systems, where to get the money, where to get the grant writers. Everything was there. Now, the county has stopped using chemicals. Now, Brevard's not using them. Brevard had two mechanical harvesters, very trick-looking harvesters, on grant money last year for free. And they got the troops, the people to run them on a grant. We're not doing our due diligence here. We're not paying attention. I don't know why Mr. Hill's pushing this thing, but you got to stop it right now let Mr. Cox and the pest management system do its job. Start looking at what's going on. Don't bamboozle us on this. You're dealing with lives here. Please, look at what you're doing here. Slow this down. Don't let this thing go through. I know there are people that want to do that, just to poison us again. I can't say enough. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
No, sir.
Can you kind of address what you envision doing with the spraying?
Well, what I want to do is get rid of the main culprit, which is our water lettuce and hyacinths, are the main culprits that clog up our system. So we know the WOW at a 10 ounce to the gallon concentration does have an effect on those types of plant life, and it will, yes, they're going to die. We know we have to excavate these canals, but to say don't kill them because you're going to have to excavate the canals are already silted in. We've got to get in there and get that historic loads out. That's one of the things I said in my original plan. But we've got to not have, we had the Concha Dam block completely up. We had to send excavators down there to open that up to move water out of there. So, you know, we're trying to be proactive. We're not, no one is suggesting we just go in there and just spray everything at one time and kill it. We need to spray the areas where the outfalls are, where vegetation is breaking loose and getting out and blocking up the system. That's our number one priority, is to stop the potential for flooding. That's what we're worried about.
Okay.
And that's what we need to get going on. I mean, we need to get our canals back to where they need to be. I mean, it's a stormwater system, and we're not treating it like a stormwater system. And so we need to start treating it like that. And part of treating it like that is to live up to our agreements with St. Johns River Water Management and keeping the capacity up. And by not keeping these things clean, we're not doing our jobs. And I quite frankly believe we're putting the citizens of Sebastian in jeopardy. I mean, we saw the rain events that happened, and damn it, I know there was a lot of rain, but the amount of flooding that we've seen over the last year and over the last couple of months has been extreme. Stuff I haven't seen in years. I've lived through the hurricanes in 2004, and I've lived through many a tropical storm, and I've lived through a heck of a lot of rain. But boy, I tell you, when you start seeing the water up to mailboxes in areas you've never seen water on the streets, then something's not right. And then you drive up and you see those side yard canals, those backyard canals, they're just full of stuff. And the water's just trying and fighting to get in there. Now, a few days later, all the water's gone because, you know, they eventually it got out. But the problem is that they don't have the capacity to get them out in a hurry when they need to. Now, the system's there to hold water until we get the major rain events, and then it needs to get that water out of there so we don't flood our streets and put some of our homes and properties in jeopardy.
Do you have anything to say?
Just a couple of things, and this, again, is mostly for clarification for the public. How has the WOW done in a limited capacity you've used it now?
So when we did the test plots in the Hardy Canal system on hyacinth, it was effective on hyacinth, it was effective on the water lettuce, it was effective on cattails. It was not effective on torpedo grass, and we had a major storm come through when we sprayed the duckweed, so we don't have an evaluation on how it did on duckweed. It will not treat submerged vegetation. It will treat the vegetation on the surface, and it will systemically go down into the root system and kill the plant. It's not just going to burn it, but it's going to kill it. So we know it's 5 times more expensive to treat it with WOW than it is other treatments, but we're going to try it and see how effective it is over a larger scale. We were limited to a 50-foot square area to test by the former council. That's not a broad enough area to really get a good reading on what it will do over a long period of time, but it was extremely effective on the hyacinth and the cattail.
And you're not discontinuing your evaluation of other methods. I mean,
No,
even though the last mechanical thing kind of didn't work right, there are other ways to do mechanical harvesting. You're going to continue to look at that stuff.
Well, we're continually doing manual harvesting ourselves with our excavators, and yes, we're the IPM program. We're still moving forward. They're going to be meeting and coming up with a similar program as what we did in the parks.
Okay.
But we're at a critical mass with this. You know, we've got a storm out there that could be here in 10 days. Invest 93. Think about that for a minute. You know, it's a long way out, and they're not predicting it to strike it, but Invest 93 is 10 days out.
Well, I agree 100% with what Vice Mayor Hill said. I mean, it is a stormwater system, and we have to get it back into shape to do that. And I just want to make sure the public knows that we're not disregarding all of the concerns that were there about using chemicals that may be actually hazardous, non-selective things like Roundup and so forth. We're not disregarding that. We're just trying to provide the city manager an opportunity to get that stormwater system back into shape. And I agree with that 100%.
And that was the original purpose of my motion, was to give the power back to the city manager to do his job and not us micromanage everything they do. Yes, we're giving direction, follow the IPM program, find the best methods possible, the least toxic methods possible. But we've seen what 20 years did, but look what 10 months have done to our canals and ditches. It's destroyed them. I mean, they're in really bad shape after 10 months of not doing anything. We can't not do anything.
So this will be reevaluated after 6 months of spraying the WOW? Is that what I'm reading?
Wasn't our plan to reevaluate it in 6 months. Our plan was to develop the IPM schedule over the next 6 months and implement that program once it's in, but we need to be able to manage these canals.
No, I agree. So
yeah, you're actually going to do a reevaluation of the WOW product when you do the stormwater pest management plan, because you're going to evaluate how it works within the stormwater system and whether there are other issues related to it that might want us to take a different direction in using that. So you're going to reevaluate that product at that point in time.
Yeah, because, you know, when I was only granted a 50 square foot area.
I remember that meeting, yeah.
That was a very difficult, it's very difficult into such a myopic scale to determine the overall effectiveness of it.
Agreed.
Because you're dealing with such a small, compact area.
Okay. Did you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I'll just, you know, there was something said that I just want to clarify by someone on Zoom, that, you know, we just want to go out there and kill people and spray poisons in our waters, and nothing could be further from the truth. I've got children growing up in this town. I've got aunts and uncles and tons of family, and I've got people who I love in this community, and it's just ridiculous, and it's a lie to say that we would want to just start spraying chemicals. There's some sort of ridiculous benefit that we get from trying to poison the people of Sebastian. It's ridiculous, and it's asinine, and that's what causes the problems in this community. We can't have adult conversations about something. We start having these things just thrown out there, and it's terrible, and it's shameful, and, you know, it's just, it's again, I'm a little bit riled up because, you know, when someone accuses me of wanting to poison people, I find it just completely asinine.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I also want my kids to go to the park and not get bit by ants.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. Well, I tend to just kind of disregard that type of conversation, but I did listen very well to Ruth, who I have a lot of faith in, and she had some very valid points about some of the information that she brought up, which I know those things will come out when they do the integrated pest management plan for the stormwater system. They'll have an opportunity to bring that stuff forward. So we have a motion on the floor.
I had a couple of more items, but you just lift me at one.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The other one is we're looking at lifting the moratorium of spraying the glyphosate. So you're not just going to go and spray WOW on everywhere we used to spray glyphosate, just where it's been effective, and then you're going to work it in along the other areas while we're working in the IPM?
So my initial plan was, when I did this agenda summary, was not to even talk about, I didn't have an envision of lifting the entire moratorium. I was asking, and my proposal to council was to remove the moratorium to allow me to spray WOW, so I could at least try to address some of the heavy vegetation. If that doesn't work, we would have to come back to you for something else. I think, and I'm not going to speak for Councilmember Nunn, I think what he's saying is rather than have to come back to you if WOW does not work, that we can go to the next least environmentally impact quotient rated treatment for those vegetation.
Right, and that was my other point. I wanted to clarify the motion, is that this one right here is just talking about spraying WOW, and then part of the motion, the way I heard it was, then go on to possibly glyphosate, and I wouldn't want to see glyphosate being sprayed unless it comes back to the council and give us an update on how the WOW worked. Is that?
I agree with that. I actually do. I don't have any issue with the WOW product, but I think that I would like to know if it doesn't work, if there's more meetings that has to take place. I don't know how long it takes.
Well, it's going to be it's going to depend on a lot of factors, but.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's a very big hindrance on you.
It just depends on how it works. I don't know. I'll follow the direction of council as always. I know that we're behind the 8 ball a little bit. I know our crews are working diligently to manually remove it, contrary to popular opinion out there, but they're working.
Oh, I know they're doing that. I'll go back to the argument I had when this whole thing came up before, and I really don't like micromanaging him at all. But science has failed us on this. Stack of books here, stack of books here. It's good, it's bad, it's good, it's bad. So this is a political thing. So from my point of view, if we are going to go back because we were forced to use a glyphosate-based product or a 2,4-D product, one of the other products, then I think that needs to be viewed from the political perspective at the same time from the practical perspective.
And yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I'll do, like I said, my original plan was only to allow us to use WOW. If council wants to expand that, that's up to council. Yeah. Let me give you an example, though, when we talk about the stormwater system, and I was going to bring this up under my comments, but I think it's appropriate to bring it up at this point. So staff and stormwater and building and planning and zoning and everyone worked very diligently on what we call our community rating system. We've dropped it from a 7 to a 6 because of the programs and implementations that we have in place today. What does that mean to our residents? There's 1,172 residents that fall under the flood insurance program. They were seeing a savings of $96,000 in their insurance programs at a 7. When we went to a 6, it's now over $128,000 in insurance premium savings because the city is doing the right thing. Do you know how hard it is to get to a 6? It's almost impossible. And we could probably shave a half a point off again. 1 point is a huge gain. So, and that's because of the work that the crews are doing, the policies that we have in place in the city. And I wouldn't want something to hurt that for our residents either. And so, when they talk about us, the flooding issues in that, you don't get to a 6 because you're not doing something. You get to a 6 because you're doing things. Okay. And it's important to know that.
All right. So as I understand it right, the motion is to lift the moratorium.
Yes, my motion is to lift the spraying moratorium and put the power back in the city manager's hands. Okay. I would still love to hear how things are doing, and we can recommend things down the road, but we have an IPM plan, and as long as we're following that plan, that seems to me that makes sense, and it's following what all the other parts of the process have done. The IPM committee, the Parks and Rec committee, the Natural Resources Board, they're all directing the IPM plan. So as long as we're following that plan as a city, I don't see why they need permission to come back to us to follow the plan we're hopefully going to approve in the next item.
Well, we don't have an IPM plan for the canals. We have one only for the parks. Yeah, so we don't have an IPM plan for
what were we treating the canals with before?
Just using best management practices, following labeled directions and EPA's recommendations and application rates.
Of glyphosate or?
Of everything, all the chemicals, all the treatments that we used are approved by IFAS, they're approved by the Florida DEP, they're approved by the EPA and those, and if used properly and used as according to direction, then they're...
Exactly.
See, I came in personally prepared to agree to WOW product. I don't know that I want to agree to 100% lift on the moratorium without having some further discussion on that. So that's just my comment.
Yeah, I do.
And I agree with that, Mr. Mayor. And again, I think that's, I thought this was a very ambitious agenda. I was expecting a lot more input, and I see several people who want to raise their hand because we're talking about something outside of the WOW now. Yeah. Moving on.
Yeah. And I'll get to you in a second, sir. Okay? I will let somebody come back.
If you're going to get to that, get to it.
Okay. Yeah, and I think, yeah. Yeah. Is there anyone, if you want to come up and talk, go ahead. I think unless the council wants to make me, because I did have public input one time before on this, so.
Graham Cox, 1213 George Street. At the risk of getting ahead of ourselves, I was going to comment on the integrated pest management presentation that Brian is going to make. But I just want to underline a couple of things dealing with the use of WOW. I commend the city manager for finding the product. It works on terrestrial environments. It was never designed to be used in aquatic environments. When I talked with Mike Bielaski, who is the CEO of the company that makes it, he says they've never ever tried to use it in aquatic environments. He knows other people have, but he can't guarantee any kind of result from using it in aquatic environments. I want to underline what Ruth said in terms of getting the integrated pest management plan done. We're going to give you, or we've given you a model, and I'd like to see you go ahead and do that before you jump to conclusions as to what the solutions are. Back to my old speech, that define the problem, look at the alternatives, look at the pros and cons, and then look at the best alternative. I understand, Mr. Nunn, why you want to move ahead with this thing because it was a campaign promise, but I'd rather we just hesitate doing that until we've given the integrated pest management planning an opportunity to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now, you have something you want to say, sir, Vice Mayor?
Oh, no, I'm good.
You're good? Yeah. Anybody else have anything you want to say?
So can we just clarify the motion, we're not going outside of the WOW? Or if
The
he
motion-
wants to make an amendment?
Well, you've had a
Because I mean,
motion.
it was pretty long, the
Okay.
motion, and
Yeah, don't read all the other stuff. Just-
No? Well, my motion was to lift the spraying moratorium and allow the city staff to work on correcting the city issues as per the IPM plan. If that's land only, then that's land only.
Okay.
If that's what the IPM plan deals with, then I guess that would be the motion, to allow them to move forward with land-based
That's the
spraying.
next agenda item, Mr. Mayor, if I may. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, Mr. Councilmember Nunn.
Yes, sir.
So this item is for the canals. I just want to make sure we need to make sure we focus, I think, because we have the integrated pest management for the parks on the next item.
Okay.
So,
And I apologize, Mr. Councilmember, I did not mean to overstep.
So let's rephrase my motion then, and let's approve the, staff recommended to approve the environmentally safe organic WOW to treat the infestation, aquatic vegetation, and move forward with that. So I make that motion.
Okay, now we have a motion to allow the city manager to use the WOW product in the aquatic setting.
I don't want to say the word point of order, but you had a motion and you had a second. The second
We
needs
haven't
to
pulled
amend
it
the
yet, I
motion.
understand, yeah. Please don't call point of order. Would you like to withdraw your motion?
I would withdraw my motion and enter that motion I just did.
And you'll withdraw your second, sir?
I seconded that.
No, I'm talking about Councilmember Jones, I think. You seconded his first motion, didn't you? Vice Mayor Hill did. Okay, so the first motion is withdrawn?
Withdrawn, yes, sir.
Okay, did you withdraw your second?
No.
No, he did not withdraw his second. So you can't withdraw the motion because he didn't
I
withdraw his
can't
second.
withdraw them, so we're voting then.
All right, so we have to vote on that motion.
Okay.
All right, so the motion is that we lift the moratorium, and that will require a voice vote, please.
Can we just make sure we got that motion?
Yep, I will read it one more time for you.
Thank
My
you.
motion is to lift spraying moratorium and allow city staff to work on connecting the city issues as per the City of Sebastian IPM plan.
And I have an issue with that, and the reason I'm going to raise that issue before we vote, because he said the city's integrated pest management plan is the guideline, and we don't have one for waterways. If that motion is voted on as it's stated and it's approved, you have to wait till the waterway best management plan is finished before you can do anything. Mr. City Attorney, please.
I'm here, Mr. Mayor. What I'm not tracking is why Councilmember Nunn cannot withdraw his motion, his initial motion.
Oh, okay, the second didn't withdraw. Does the second have to withdraw for him to withdraw his original motion?
I think they both have to withdraw.
Okay, the second did not withdraw.
So he does not want to withdraw his second?
No, the second does not want to withdraw his second. So the motion still stands.
Take a vote on it.
Okay, and the wording of the motion is that we lift the moratorium and that the city manager can take the steps as indicated in the integrated pest management plan. We don't have one for the waterways. So that means that he can't do anything until we have one for the waterways. That's a good reason to either vote down or withdraw that motion, because you're kind of tying his hands by tying it to the pest management plan. I don't want to be too theoretical here. I just don't want us to pass a motion and find out that he can't do anything with it. So do you agree with that logic?
I do.
Okay.
I do, yes, I do, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
So I think the best bet is to withdraw and reissue. I think Councilman Dunn stated the second motion, which is what we were initially here for, which is why.
I will withdraw my second.
Okay, all right, the second is withdrawn. You withdraw your motion?
I withdraw my motion, and I'll enter a new motion.
Yes, you may.
So my motion is to lift the spraying moratorium and allow the city staff to work on correcting the city issues as per best practice and the Sebastian IPM plan.
Okay.
All right.
And I'll second that.
All right. So that's lifting the moratorium based on best practice and the IPM plan when the IPM plan is done. Okay.
Now, why are we up here doing this? I mean, if the majority of council wants to lift the moratorium,
we're going to vote.
Then we should lift the moratorium, and then if we don't, then we don't.
Yeah, we're going to vote. The reason that I brought that up a minute ago was that before he added that clause to it, it was not enforceable.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, that's the reason I brought that up.
Thank you.
I anticipate it's going to pass, but it was not enforceable.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. That's the only reason I brought that up.
Okay.
And I know there are people who would challenge it. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, let's have a roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Hill,
Yes.
Councilmember Jones,
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin,
No.
Councilmember Nunn,
Yes.
and Mayor Dodd.
No.
Okay,
Okay.
motion carries.
We're on to the integrated pest management plan.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, resolution R 20-12, resolution of the city of Sebastian, Indian River County, Florida, supporting the integrated pest management, open paren IPM, close paren plan for city parks and properties to be implemented into the city policies, providing for a scrivener's errors and providing for an effective date.
Okay. Mr. City Manager.
So we have Mr. Benton and Ms. Hegler here to give you a presentation on how we got to where we are and what the program entails, and then we can open it up to any questions.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Tonight, Ms. Kim Hegler and myself are proud to present this integrated pest management plan for use on the city's parks and properties. I do have it in here. We're just going to note that this plan will not cover any of the ponds, canals, and ditches within these properties beyond the establishment of a 10-foot buffer zone. Stormwater features are going to be managed collectively by the Stormwater Department and will be addressed with a separate IPM plan for stormwater assets, which our plan is, Ms. Hegler and myself and Mr. Griffin, for that plan, we're going to look to start that committee meeting starting next week. And once we get the entire committee was just chosen from the Natural Resources Board earlier this week. The Integrated Pest Management Plan before you is the collaborative product of hard work, in-depth discussion, thoughtful review, and peer-reviewed scientific research conducted over a 5-month period by the members of the IPM subcommittee. The subcommittee members include myself and Ms. Kim Hegler, who's our environmental technician for the city. She's also going to be the person who's in charge as the IPM coordinator for the plan. Committee members, 4 members of the Natural Resources Board, Brian O'Neill, Kathy Brothers, Thomas Carano, and Jessica Lovell. We also had local scientists to serve as advisors on this committee, which include Natural Resources Board member Ruth Callahan, who is a certified environmental analytical chemist, Christine Kelly Bagazzo, the director of our University of Florida IFAS Indian River County Extension Office, Sharon Tyson with Florida State Parks, and Dr. Graham Cox from the Pelican Island Audubon Society. This process began with 2 public integrated pest management workshops in January of this year. Following these workshops, the IPM subcommittee was formed. Public notice, agendas, and official minutes were provided for each of the subcommittee's 13 meetings in accordance with Florida Sunshine Laws. Additionally, updates were provided at Natural Resources Board meetings, Parks and Rec Board, and City Council meetings, each of which provided for public questions and input. To begin, it is important to note that Leisure Services, also known as Park staff, was already doing a great job. Best management practices were utilized and pesticide use was minimal. Most of the cultural and mechanical methods recommended were already a part of our routine park maintenance, and the city currently has 2 licensed applicators within our park staff. However, our record keeping could have been a little more detailed, and there were no standards set for city contractors. Ultimately, what we realized is that we could do better. Therefore, the subcommittee established the following goals for the IPM program. Protect environmental resources by reducing the amount of pollutants that enter surface and groundwater and minimizing effects on native plants, animals, and habitats. Ensure effective economic pest management on city property while minimizing health risks to the public, city staff, and the environment. Promote the transparency of the city's pest management activities and increase public awareness of IPM methods and benefits. The IPM program establishes the IPM plan as policy once City Council approves the plan and the accompanying resolution. The program will be coordinated and implemented by myself, my staff, and the IPM coordinator, which will be Ms. Kim Hagler. All pest management activities will be recorded through the use of data sheets. Applicable city staff will participate in regular training courses, and we will maintain at least 2 certified applicators on our staff. Continued public input and outreach is a key element of the IPM program. Also, any applicable contractors with the city will receive a copy of the plan and will sign a contract agreeing to implement all relevant IPM policy, procedures, and data recording. And that contract is included in the packet as well today. And with that, let's see, outreach efforts will educate the public about the city's IPM program and IPM practices residents can implement to reduce their own use of pesticides. That was one item that came up numerous times is from the general public and even from our committee is they want us to get the word out to the public to promote what we're doing from a city standpoint to try and get as many residents to follow the same protocols as we are. These efforts will include distribution of information, either created internally or obtained through partnership with local and state government agencies. Distribution points for this information include the city's IPM website, which will be created once we have the final resolution approved, social media, community events, landscape industry professionals, new homeowner folders, which are created in partnership with our local IFAS extension and left at new homes during final inspection. And in addition, the IPM program annual review process each March will be open for public questions and comments, and all of the resulting data and reports will be posted on the IPM website. So now to the more in-depth good stuff. I'll let Ms. Kim Hagler give us that information.
All right. The IPM plan and program is designed according to the established community IPM cycle pictured here. This cycle is based on planning and prevention with the use of chemicals as the last resort for pest control. So we begin the cycle with inspection and monitoring, and that's where city staff will scout the landscapes and buildings to locate pests. This may include monitoring by visual checks, traps, etc. And then next we have the identification. Effective treatment is dependent on proper identification and understanding of the life history traits of the pest. All of the data from these 2 steps is recorded on the chemical control log form, which you will find on page 39 of the IPM plan. The next step in this process is planning, and the focus of planning is on prevention. We must consider environmental, economic, and human health costs equally and use proper techniques and timing for required management. Here, it is determined whether a threshold has been crossed and what action is needed. In order to plan properly, a classification system for the parks and properties was developed so that pests can be managed in a way that is specific to the way each property is utilized by the public. So, therefore, the city's parks and properties are divided into the following categories. There's passive, active, and athletic. Here is the table. which you'll also find on page 8 of your plan, of all the properties. Athletic parks are parks whose turf grass must be maintained to a higher standard to ensure the playability and safety of the participants. Proactive treatments are necessary in order to provide the standard of care that is required. Active parks are parks that do not contain Bermuda turf, receive the most activity on a daily basis, and they need to be treated proactively due to the number of park patrons on a daily basis and the nature of the activities that take place. Passive parks are the neighborhood parks, which can most likely be maintained with a natural approach. Some of these parks have playgrounds, which will need to be assessed frequently. The majority of city parks and properties fall under this category. And for each property classification, a separate list of key pests were identified. And after planning, it's time to implement the strategies for control. All integrated pest management strategies or methods are classified as either biological, cultural, mechanical, or chemical. All of these techniques are combined in this plan so that pests are kept at an acceptable thresholds in an effective and economical manner that is not detrimental to human health and the environment. So the non-chemical pest control methods are considered first. This requires that the key pests are determined for each property classification, and each class is assigned its own unique set of non-chemical methods. These biological, cultural, and mechanical practices are to be conducted as part of the regular maintenance of these areas. Some of the non-chemical methods to be conducted include efficient irrigation and fertilization, mulching, proper mowing height for turf species, sanitation of tools, and overseeding. All non-chemical activities will be recorded on the monthly IPM log form found on page 47 of your plan. In addition, on pages 17 and 18, you will find a list of methods for future consideration, which includes practices such as installing a warning track at the baseball fields and cement platforms under the bleachers. These are more complicated projects and may require special budgeting. The final tool in the IPM toolbox is chemical control. These should be utilized after biological, mechanical, and cultural methods have failed to reduce pest populations below tolerance thresholds. Before utilizing chemicals, we must carefully weigh environmental costs and planning. The important part of using chemicals is to establish a pesticide use methodology. And so planning for the pesticide application involves recording all inspection and pesticide application data on chemical control log form, determining proper application rate, mix chemicals, calibrate equipment accordingly. Routinely scheduled applications and broadcast applications should be avoided. Buffer zones must be established to protect bodies of water. Safety data sheets for all chemicals used will be on site at all times. And notification signage located on page 41 of your plan must be posted in treated areas at least 24 hours before application. Also, pesticides utilized are restricted to those used on that approved pesticides table, which you will find on page 23 of the plan. A little more discussion about that approved pesticides table. It's a comprehensive list of the pesticides which were compiled by the IPM subcommittee. These chemicals have either been previously utilized by city staff, recommended through the University of Florida Institute of Food and Agricultural Science Extension Office publications, or discovered through extensive staff and committee member research. Selection of pesticides for use are based upon a combination of a low environmental impact quotient, a term I will explain in just a minute, low cost, and maximum efficacy. The approved pesticide table includes pertinent chemical attributes such as active ingredients and their percentages, EPA registration number, targeted pest, a cost rating per 1,000 feet squared, and the observed staff efficacy of the product. The graphic here depicts a selection of the table, which includes 18 products. It's important to discuss that in the IPM subcommittee's quest to provide pest management options that are not only effective but also the least possible risk to human environmental health, biopesticide options were reviewed extensively. Biopesticides contain only naturally occurring substances. They tend to break down rapidly, so they do not persist in the environment. They typically pose the least risk to non-target organisms, and they are fast-acting. However, there are also potential risks associated with the application of natural products that we must consider when selecting pesticides for the approved pesticide table. Because biopesticides break down easily, they often require multiple applications, which may multiply the environmental risks. These products are exempt from EPA review, so they may not even be registered for sale in Florida, which means the city may not legally use it. No EPA review means that there is little to no data on the long-term risks or efficacies. Lack of registration also means that there may not be consistent mass-produced version of it available. For these reasons, while there are many natural pesticide options listed here, it is not feasible to only include biopesticide options. There are also a category of pesticides listed on the table as restricted, and these are pesticides that will, through the development of the plan, it's not advisable to prohibit the use of any IPM method. You don't want to remove any tool out of your toolbox, technically. So extenuating circumstances may arise in which staff is limited in what will be effective. In addition, new pesticides are constantly being developed and approved, which may prove more environmentally and economically sustainable than current approved pesticides. So before purchase of a restricted pesticide or any new pesticide that is not included on the approved pesticide table, a pesticide exemption form found on page 45 must be submitted. Approval requires thorough justification for use of the chemical, and the form must be submitted 4 days prior to the planned application. The form is then submitted to the Leisure Services Director, IPM Coordinator, and City Manager for signed approval. All submitted forms will be incorporated into the annual review process. And now a little discussion about the environmental impact quotient I mentioned earlier. So in order to assess the variety of potential effects each pesticide could have on environmental and human health, the subcommittee adopted the Environmental Impact Quotient, or EIQ. This is a formula developed by Cornell University. The EIQ is a numeric model for pesticide selection. The formula takes into account factors such as toxicity to humans, leachability to groundwater, runoff potential, soil persistence, and the effects on non-target terrestrial and aquatic species. Basically, the risk of each chemical is the product of its overall toxicity and the potential for exposure. And I know it looks really complicated, but luckily Cornell has actually published a table of commonly used chemicals and their pre-calculated scores. So it's a really simple thing. They keep it updated. So it looks like a really complicated formula. We don't have to do that math. I just wanted to show you what all is incorporated into it. So for your reference, on page 43 of the IPM plan, you can review a complete breakdown of every factor in the formula. However, because the pesticide's risk increases with the amount that is applied, the EIQ number alone does not create the clearest comparison among pesticides. The field use EIQ rating multiplies the EIQ number by the % concentration of the active ingredient in the formulation used and the application rate. The result is a number that allows for comparison among pesticides when more applications may be required of one pesticide versus less applications of another. So for instance, if a pesticide with a low EIQ number requires 3 applications to be effective, whereas a pesticide with a higher EIQ that is viewed as more toxic but you use much less of it, the EIQ gives us a way to quantify that chemical with the higher EIQ would be a better choice. So that's called the field use EIQ rating. So over a period of time, that could be summed up to create a number which then can be compared with previous and future time periods. So it allows comparison between seasons and years to indicate the reduction in the environmental and human health risks over time. Again, looks like a complicated formula, but Cornell also has a calculator on their website, so all you have to do is input the numbers. So the next step in the IPM cycle is record keeping. So during and following implementation of any pest control methods, it is essential to maintain accurate records. All data forms and purchase orders are submitted to the IPM coordinator monthly, and these records will be made available to staff and the public through the city's IPM website and upon request. Finally, we evaluate effectiveness of the control. The IPM coordinator will compile all data into an annual report each March, and the IPM subcommittee will reconvene to assess the effectiveness of the program and discuss any changes that may be needed. The annual report, data, and subcommittee assessment is then brought to the NRB and Parks and Rec boards before being presented to City Council. And then it's time to return back to inspection and monitoring and begin the cycle all over again. So the IPM subcommittee would like to thank the mayor and the City Council for their continued support and encouragement throughout this process. And we look forward to getting started on the stormwater assets plan.
Yes, sir.
Mayor Dodd, thank you very much. And I want to say that you guys have done an outstanding job. I want to thank Brian and you know, all of those that were involved in it, the Natural Resources Board, Dr. Cox, you know, I can name everyone on this. There are a lot of folks that are listed in here. What a heck of a job. I mean, this is what happens when we can sit down and talk about an issue like adults and try to come up with solutions to what are either real problems or perceived problems. So this book right here is outstanding. The product that was delivered here is fantastic. It's really a great example of how, you know, the city can get things done and the community working together to you know, if nothing else, provide, you know, a better understanding of exactly how it is the city is operating or will be operating going forward. So thank you all very much for your outstanding work in getting this done.
Okay. Anyone else want to say anything before I open this up public comment?
I guess just a comment is I think it's a fantastic plan, and you put us on this years ago. This didn't just happen overnight, and I think it must be like fine wine. Good things take time. I'm very supportive. I like the idea in there, if there's going to be the contractor training. I guess one thing I'll throw in, after watching the past 10 months, some of the meetings, especially the workshops on the IPM, we're going to be spot checking those contractors, because what I heard from a lot of people in the public, they're just out there spraying. If it takes a pound, they throw 10 pounds in. You know, and I see that you had labeled in there, if they violated a contract, you're gone, and I love that.
So we do monitor them, and all of our contractors that work, and then we're talking specifically about the parks, and so we have crews that are available to monitor them because they're working in the same area. So we'll be monitoring them, and there's a penalty if they violate it. So I don't think they want to lose a contract with the city by thinking if a little's good, more is better.
Right, and I figure they will do good, but I remember those were the numerous complaints I heard over the past 10 months about the people that were applying it, and I know you guys do a great job, so.
Okay, anyone from the public want to address this? Yes, sir.
My name is Graham Cox, 1213 George Street. Three things I want to say, if I can. It was a privilege to serve on the Natural Resources Committee's subcommittee dealing with this, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to help in some way. What we've given you, I think, it could be described less as a handbook or less as a book, but more as a process. When Brian retires, when Kim retires, God forbid, it'll be a long, long time. But we want somebody who will be able to step in and say, how did that decision get made, and what's the process we went through to do it? And I think this book outlines that. The important page, and it took a while to get to this one, was to the environment, is to produce the environmental impact quotient that gives you a good table as to what works, and what's good, what's bad, what's indifferent, what's expensive and what's less expensive. And I think it's an excellent guide. Just if you look at no other pages, you look at that one and see what you do with it. And I want to emphasize the fact that this book is more, and this process is more about other ways of dealing with their problems in the parks and recreation areas. It's more about the mechanical things, the hand things that you can do, and less about the pesticides. I know we spend a lot of time on pesticides, but I want to emphasize that many things that I learned from Brian is when you go around the fields and you look at what the problems are and what are the ways that are of taking care of it without having to spray the hell out of it.
Right.
And I really commend Brian and I commend Kim for all the work they've done in it. They both need an assistant and a pay raise. Thank you.
Well, the formula is one of the reasons neither one of them can ever leave. Okay, I will say, does anyone else in public want to address this, ma'am?
Ma'am.
Well, you know, you flag me down in my truck, I have to be, you know.
Andrea Ring. I went to a few meetings and I was really impressed and happy. I also know that they need equipment to be able to do things manually, and I was wondering if you all have the equipment needs. One of them is a sprayer that will spray the hot water to keep our ants down, and that is inexpensive, and I'm hoping that you all can see fit to put it in the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, this is, you know, I think Councilmember, or Vice Mayor Hill held this book up. If anyone hasn't seen this, it's on the website. Please go out and look at it. There's major cities in the state of Florida that would love to have something like this. And I think it's a great accomplishment. It's a very, very pleasing thing for me because I remember 2016-17 working through the council and getting agreement with the 5 members of the council at that time to try to work with the city manager on creating an integrated pest management plan. So the city's been working on this for a long time, even though a lot of people didn't admit that we have. We've been working on it for a long time, and it's a great accomplishment. And I just give kudos to everybody involved in it. I think it's done a great job. I can't wait to do the next step in it, because once the next step is done, we'll be able to get on truly with doing some of the stuff that we need to do. And I know you're beginning that process now. So I'm very pleased. And I would like to make a motion that we...
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
You need the city attorney to read the resolution?
Oh, did you not, Manny, did you read this? You didn't read it, did you? Thank you.
I did read it. I did.
Okay, will you please read it?
Again? Sure.
Oh, you did read it?
No, we just went to the presentation.
No, he read it.
He read it, didn't he?
I did. I read it
Right
when
at the
it first
beginning, you
started.
read it. Yeah, now we're...
He
He's not as old as I am, but his mind is, yeah. Okay, so since it was read by our esteemed city attorney, I would like to make a motion that we approve resolution R20-12, and we adopt the integrated pest management plan.
As long as you read it, I second it.
Can we make sure he read it first?
He said he did.
He did.
Yeah, he
I
did.
know, I heard 20-12, but I want to make sure, so.
Yeah, he did read it, yeah.
Okay.
All right, this can be done by voice vote, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Great job.
Now,
Okay.
Brian, I guess you're still up on this. Manny, would you like to read resolution 20-24?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number R20-24, a resolution of the City of Sebastian, Indian River County, Florida, adopting the provided athletic field rental fees, pickleball, light fees, and friendship tennis court user fees, providing for conflict, providing for scrivener's error, and providing for an effective date.
Sir.
So, Mr. Mayor, one of the things that brought this to our attention was when we were asked to look at the clay tennis courts and whether to resurface them with asphalt or resurface them with clay. And Brian had already started a proposal or looking at fees in other communities and things that were out there. But what came out of the Parks and Rec Board meeting was that they agreed that if they wanted to keep it clay, that we needed to try to look at those fees. And Brian and I agreed we didn't want to just look at one factor. We wanted to look at the overall fee structure for the city and see where we were. So Brian has done a great job in evaluating what's out there, what the fees are in other areas, and put this fee proposal together for you to consider tonight. And I'm going to turn it over to Brian at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Carlisle. Mayor, City Council members, so as Mr. Carlisle mentioned, we did have the recommendation to look at the tennis court fees from Parks and Rec when we were renovating the clay tennis courts. That's a portion of this. We also have the pickleball complex lighting and court rental fees, which are included in this now that we had the construction completed back in March of 2020, and then the lights were installed back in September. We completed that project as well. So these were all parts of it. And the last element is the athletic facility rental fees. As our fields began to improve over the past couple years, we've gotten a lot more requests to rent our athletic fields. And we were kind of hindered a little bit from a previous resolution on what we could charge, and it wasn't what should have been charged for those athletic fields based on the conditions. So this is going to bring us more in tune with what we should be charging whenever people come in to want run tournaments and rent our athletic fields for profit and groups such as that. So with that, I have done, as Mr. Carlisle mentioned, some research. Since we presented it to Parks and Rec, there were quite a few questions that were brought up about other municipalities or local groups that have pickleball courts specifically. I know that was an item that was brought up about their fees. So I do have that information, or if council has any questions as well.
Okay. Any questions from anyone? Anyone from the public want to address this? Start with you.
Mayor, City Council, my name is Darlene Schwartz. I live at 344 Sandcrest Circle, and I'm a pickleball player. And first off, we attended the Recreation Committee meeting, the budget meeting, and we made our concerns known. And there was nothing, and no one asked us any questions about our concerns. So then we did an email blast to the City Council, and again, no response back from our requests. So we're going to try again tonight, and I'm going to let you know what our concerns are. We have a group, on an average of 12 of us, and we play 2 nights a week, Monday and Wednesday, so that's 4 courts. One night is $20, 2 nights is $40. That's an average of $160 a month. An average gym membership is $26 a month. Let's see, my average home electric bill is only $80. So we're not sure at this point if we're paying for the lights, the electric, or both. But our concern, too, is that we all live in the city of Sebastian, and we're already paying taxes. And Vero Beach has a $1 charge for their lighted courts. Barefoot Bay, $10 for an entire year to play there. And Schumann has lights, and there's no charge there. So those are our concerns, and we really would appreciate your consideration of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ma'am.
Sue Peterson from Sebastian Highlands. First, I'd like to thank Mayor Dodd and Jim for being professional and polite in the last 6 months or however, and the other 3 for stepping up and making this a very polite and productive council. So December of 16, I guess, 2016 is when the pickleball courts were was granted, and they decided to approve and build those courts. I unfortunately was still trying to decide where to live here in Florida, and thank God I picked Sebastian. It's beautiful. I found an article apparently written in July for Sebastian Daily about the meeting that was held here. And apparently most of the people that came and voiced opinions or recommendations were residents from Mico, Barefoot Bay, and Vero. Very few people from Sebastian attended that meeting, which surprised me, but saddened me, because since I've been playing there in March, there's a Facebook page, Sebastian Pickleball, that says, come play at Sebastian's new courts. It's free. which kind of scares me because this is a beautiful court. We waited a long time and very grateful for these courts. We don't play there for tournament. We don't play there for classes or rentals. We play there for leisure, for camaraderie, and it's a pride of Sebastian. So when we went to the Parks and Rec committee meeting, we asked $5 for an hour to play there. We thought that was a little bit much, and the gentleman who sits in that chair said, "That's not too much to ask you to pay." I said, "Really?" No, not you at the, it wasn't you. I don't know his name, but I knew he sat there. He said, "That's not too much to pay." And I said, "Really? I'm looking at a 12% increase in my taxes, and you're telling me that's not too much?" So I looked around, and I found out, as Darlene found out, it's $10 a year to play at Barefoot Bay, or $1 an hour to play in Vero. And I talked to some people down in Vero, and they said, "No, we come up to your place because we either have to have a membership that we pay for in Vero, or we have to pay per hour down there. So we come up to Sebastian and we play there because it's free, but we'll have to pay for lights." So I proposed to the Parks and Rec and said, "Can we have a discount? If we're a City of Sebastian resident, and we show up there with our ID, can we have a discount?" The clay courts have a discount. What is it, $7 for a non-resident, $5 for a resident? Can we have a discount? That was not addressed. It wasn't answered at the Parks and Rec. So that's what we're asking. How is the pricing structure of $5 an hour? How was that? How did they come upon that? They said, well, if it's $5 and it's 2 courts and you have 4 players and you divide that and they whittled it all the way down. Well, if my husband and I want to go over there and practice, that's $5. And I'm lighting 4 courts. It's still, it just didn't seem right. As Jim said earlier in tonight's meeting, ease the burden on the city of Sebastian. Isn't that what we built them for? Is for our city of Sebastian residents. If we're trying to make back or recoup money that we put out there to maintain these courts or the lights, which I kind of thought was kind of strange. We're in this sunshine state. Why weren't they solar powered? But that's another thought. Make the money on the tournament fees. Make the money on the guys who want to teach these classes, the rentals. Don't make it on the backs of the city of Sebastian residents. Give us a discount. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Sir?
I'm sorry, I'm not as prepared as these ladies were. I just found out about this last night. But I did hear the fees were going up, and I paid $3 to play on the clay courts last night. I loved them. My knees are scarred badly. They would have been much worse scarred on asphalt courts. I did have a friend, or I still do have a friend, that's running for the city council in Melbourne. And he sent me the list from Fee Park, what they charge there. Just check it and see if it's in line with what we're doing, because what I have heard, and I haven't seen anything in writing, talking about considerably more. I'm fine with what it is now. $5 from 3, I'm fine. I live on Media Terrace, Tom Hill.
Thank you.
Tom Hill, okay.
Anyone else? Okay, council.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
I apologize, I do have a question. So I'm looking at this and it says $25 an hour for the pickleball complex. Is that to rent a single pickleball court? Or is that for the complex itself?
No, so the pickleball complex rental fees, the $25 per hour per court will be what we charge individuals if they want to either reserve a court to give lessons, or they want to reserve a court to ensure that they have it, or also, tournament play and stuff like that.
Okay, so if somebody shows up and they need lights, then it's the $5 for an hour.
Yes, sir. There's no fee for them to show up and play. The only fee that's proposed is either a rental fee if they want to rent the courts or if they want to purchase lighting tokens.
Okay. And what were light tokens, or what would the light cost in other cities comparably?
I can give you, if I may, I've got a breakdown that I reached out to either directors from Parks and Recreation for other municipalities, or Barefoot Bay was a little bit different, and I think he is their community manager, Mr. Coffey. But I'll give you a breakdown, if you would like, for each of these municipalities. I've got 6 or 7 of them.
A couple, yeah.
So Vero Beach, their pickleball courts are run by Pickleball University, in which they have a license agreement with the city. The city does operate tennis courts. They charge $2 per hour per court per person for tennis courts in Vero. Pickle U, who operates the license agreement with Vero Beach, they did not respond directly, but I got the information from their website that shows starting Monday, September 28th, only members and their guests can use courts that have lights. Daily guest fee is $10 per day per person. A membership fee is new members $200 plus 7% tax, returning members $100 plus 7% tax. That's at Pocahontas Park. Barefoot Bay, use of the pickleball courts is free to property owners and renters with a valid social membership badge. Badge is free to owners who are up to date on annual assessment fees of $816. So they have a totally separate agreement there, because Barefoot Bay, you have to pay your assessment fee in order to get your badge to use the social membership. Renters must purchase a renter's badge. Renters rates, a seasonal renter is $25 per person per month plus tax. A long-term renter is $100 per adult plus tax and $25 per dependent. And then an annual renewal for renters is $50 per adult and $10 per dependent. Guest passes at Barefoot Bay, and this, like I said, this came directly from the community manager. 1-day guest pass is $3 per person per day. A 2 to 7 day guest pass is $5 to $7 per person, depending on the location you purchased the pass. And a non-resident visitor pass is $15 per person per day. Brevard County outdoor court fee is $8 per hour per court and includes lights. West Melbourne, there's no charge to play. However, they do charge $2 per person per hour for lights. That's $2 per person per hour for lights. Indian River County, currently no outdoor courts, but in the planning stages to build them. Their director stated they will evaluate charging for lights once they begin the project. They do have indoor courts that charge $3 per session at the IG Center. So it's $3 per session. It is a 3-hour session. They allow up to 48 participants per session, but they only have 6 courts. Only up to 24 people can play at one given time. So they're rotating constantly. You're not getting 3 full hours playing by yourself. I spoke to Palm Bay. They do not have any courts, according to the information that was given to me from them. And the last one is City of Melbourne. I spoke with them actually today, and they have outdoor courts at their tennis complex, and they charge $2, and if it's in the evening and you want lights, their fee is $3 per person to get lights. That's not per hour, but it is $3 to get light, including lights at Melbourne. And those were the other municipalities and areas that I received feedback from.
So, and our cost is free unless you need lights at night?
Absolutely.
And if I can, Mr. Mayor, it's not $5 per person, it's $5 to turn the lights on for 2 courts, because we couldn't split it up any other way.
Right.
So you can, up to 8 people can play, but if you're playing with 2 people, because there's no way to play by yourself, it's $2.50 for an hour and 15 minutes for that token. If you buy the the $20 tokens, it's 5 tokens for $20, which brings it down to $2 a player if you're only going to play 2 players. So I think we're well within the realm. The other thing we need to realize with our pickleball court is we have a lease with the airport we have to pay. So it's not like Friendship Park where we don't have a lease payment. We have rental lease that we have to pay to the airport. We're a tenant. So we have to, it's also those costs we need to look at.
Okay. Thank you.
Brian, there was conversation at the Parks and Rec Committee about having, you got 5 tokens for $20. There was conversation about what would you do for 10 tokens? Or, you know, like for a group that plays once or twice a week, and they know they're gonna play once or twice a week, and they're gonna light up, you know, 2 courts, which they can do. If they know they're gonna do that, could there be some discount for a larger volume for that? Or how do you feel about that?
I'll have to defer to Mr. Carlisle on that. I'm not going to make that decision.
Well, I mean, I know, in reality, we're talking about 50 cents per person for an hour and 15 minutes to play when you've got 8 people playing on 2 courts. As long as the court, you know, as long as they can actually light the 2 courts that they're playing on. Now, if for some reason it doesn't work out that way, it wouldn't, but it's 50 cents per hour, per hour and 15 minutes per person to do that. That's not exorbitant, but I understand for groups that play twice a week, you know, every week, that, you know, but they're still only talking about $1 per person per week, so.
Yeah, I think there may be some confusion in that, because it's not, you know, and I say $5 per person to have lights for an hour is exorbitant. It's crazy. But when you talk about the potential to have, like you said, 8 people on there with doubles, if they're playing doubles, or even 4, it's money. And I get it. Money's money, and you know, I understand not wanting to pay, but you know, we do this all the time. When Greg decides that he needs to make an adjustment to the golf rates out there at the golf course, well, that doesn't go over very well with the golfers. But, you know, those rates have to be adjusted sometimes, and it's unfortunate. It's not unfortunate. I mean, it is what it is. There's a cost to providing these beautiful, exceptional pickleball courts. And, you know, when the cost is, I don't want to say little or small. I mean, we keep our costs down as much as possible to utilize the benefits that we have in this community. You have to pay a lot of money to play golf. You have to pay to play on the clay tennis courts. You don't have to pay to play during the day. And, you know, I have to support it the way it is. Now, my concerns are not as much that, but, you know, I did get some phone calls about the field rates and stuff like that, the lights for the field rates, and I had to calm people down, because this doesn't affect Little League, and it doesn't affect Sebastian Sharks, and, you know, so they're not going to have to spend $125 per field or whatever it is, and then pay for the lights and all those things. So it doesn't affect that. But, you know, and anytime we do this, it's gonna upset people, and I understand it. But, you know, quite frankly, I think you did a really good job of putting this together. And your cost comparison analysis right there was pretty darn spot on. So.
Yeah. You have any comments, anybody?
I knew this was going to be a problem years ago. And I always felt, because when the pickleball first came up here, I was sitting here on council, with a lady brought in, gave me a racket and everything. I've never used it, because that's when we were having the problems over at Schumann Park and about allotting time. And we encouraged throughout the process to get leagues involved. Now, I understand people want to go down and play at 6 or 7 o'clock at night. If you go down and there's nobody on, you're in. But they like to make a reservation. And $25 an hour seems a bit much to me.
Exorbitant.
So, I mean, if they could schedule league nights and they become part of a league and not look at the $25 an hour. Because I know if you go play on the county softball fields and you're part of the league, you get in at a certain time. If you want to go have practice, put the lights on, you got to call down to the county and pay them like $100 to put the lights on. But I know when we built these courts, we didn't want to get into having to have an attendant at there to turn the lights off, to schedule times and everything. And I can anticipate the problem is, once I go down, I pay my $25 for my reservation. I go down there and there's a bunch of other people playing there, and I'm like, hey, I got my reservation, and there's no maid or D down there, so they got to call Sebastian Police Department to sort it out.
So the $25 rental fee is more geared toward the people who want to make money on our courts. So those that want to teach, and there's going to be, if you look at the application to rent, there's a certain time, and it'll be times when the staff is available. And we have cameras that he can look at on his phone. We can tell what's going on there day or night. But the $25 fee was to try to capture some of those people who want to come to our free courts, charge somebody $40 an hour to teach them pickleball, and our residents can't get on the court because they're being taken over by people, entrepreneurs who want to take the tax dollars that we put into it and make a living off of it. Well, the city needs to recoup some of those costs. There needs to be a cost to do that business, it should not be free. And that was the main reason for the court rental.
Okay, any other comments? Do I have a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'll move approval of resolution number R-20-24.
Any comments on that? Do I have a second?
Second? I'll second that motion.
Okay. We have a motion by Vice Mayor Hill, seconded by Councilmember Nunn, to approve resolution R-20-24. Any additional comments?
No, sir.
All right.
Well, I guess when you look at it, R-20-24 is establishing a leisure services department, the athletic fees policy. Now, we still have the attendant over at the skate park. Wouldn't that be that's not part of the leisure services? This is just for the tennis courts and for the pickleball.
We do not have an attendant at the skate park any longer.
No more?
No longer.
Okay, because I've noticed some shenanigans going on over there, especially at night, under the lights.
Yeah, this is the fee schedule for all leisure services, correct? Brian?
The only thing that is not included within our the Leisure Services Department is our facility rentals and Riverview Park rentals, special events. But those are under a separate resolution for those fees.
These are sports complexes.
Yes, so this one covers the sports complexes, the athletic facilities that we have.
Okay. So, is that all right?
Because again, when I caught the Parks and Rec Committee about this being on there, I don't think it really came out about the $25 an hour for a reservation. So that didn't click with me until the young lady spoke about it. So it just seems a little steep to me. Maybe go back to the public and rethink it.
I mean, $25 an hour for someone to rent the court makes total sense. You don't want someone to be able to just bogart the courts and just rent them up hour after hour after hour.
And make money off it.
This is their, so if someone wants to make sure the court's going to be available to them and don't want to wait their turn, then they'll pay the $25, but I doubt they'll do that. Typically, they're just going to go and wait until someone clears the court and then they'll play. But the $25 an hour is for someone who reserves the courts for a specific time, and then, can do with that court what they wish. And that very well and most likely is giving lessons. And so they're making money on the courts. So the typical person that's going to play the game isn't going to rent the courts.
Right, but that's people who are making money off it. Like you had mentioned the golf course. If I call Greg and say, I want a tee time in the afternoon, what can you give me? He doesn't charge me a reservation fee. I just play to go for my round of golf.
But it doesn't cost anything to play here. You play for free.
Right. No, but if I want to make a reservation for a particular, whatever you call it, tee-off time, bang-off time, or whatever, I got to pay the $25 an hour.
I think the problem I see is...
Do you have a reservation sheet hanging out there or something? Do you have a sheet where players can come in and write their name and a time, or...
Mr. Mayor, we do not currently have that out there. We do have an hour time limit. There's been no issues out there that I've been made aware of, and I try to view the camera on a daily basis. But to just address the court rental fees, it's going to be a very limited time. Pretty much what I've seen so far from my checking at the courts is Monday through Friday, the courts, there's no one there from around 11:30 till about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Those are going to be the only times that you can rent a court. We're not going to allow people to rent them at times that are our peak hours for residents.
Yeah.
And there's only going to be 2 courts that are available for rent, unless it's a tournament scenario, in which that's a little bit different scenario where they could rent it for, a day or something. But we would have courts 7 and 8, which are the 2 farthest from the parking lot, that someone could rent, but it will only be during the off-peak hours, which right now are generally about 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. are the off-peak hours currently.
Because there was never any comment at the Parks and Rec or any place that I know about charging leagues to play, because the anticipation was that people really set up their own little deals and they go out there and play. We don't have a city league set up yet or anything like that. I know there was at one point in time a group of people from a Vero League came to the Parks and Rec Committee and talked about the pickleball courts, but I don't think that's I don't have any problem with that, because I don't think they ever intended to charge leagues to play. And without an attendant out there, you can't do what you do at the golf course. You just can't do it. So, where I used to play all the time when I played tennis before my knees quit, and maybe clay courts is the place for me to think about it, but they had a sign-up sheet at the courts, and you went down there and you put your name on the time you wanted to play. And when you went to the court, your name was on the list. And if somebody else was playing because they marked out your name, that was between you and them. And there was some arguments, but but it worked pretty well. I mean, it did work really well, because they just had sign-up sheets on the courts. So, all right.
And again, this is more
We have a
geared,
motion and a second.
Yeah, are we ready? Yes. All right, let's have a voice vote since it's a resolution, please.
Councilmember McPartlin?
No.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hill?
Yes.
And Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Okay,
All right,
motion carries.
item number E. Mr.
so
City
this
Manager.
is, we went out to bid for the expansion of the cemetery, and we received bids, and Tim Rose Contracting bid 20-8 in the amount of $50,977 to establish the new roadway system within the cemetery expansion project on the, the northwest side of the existing cemetery. We'd ask the council to approve.
All right.
Mayor Dodd, I'd move to award the agreement to Timothy Road Contracting for roadway construction expansion at the Sebastian Municipal Cemetery in the amount of $50,997.
Mayor Dodd, I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Mayor Hill and seconded by Councilmember Jones. Any comments from the public? Seeing none. Any comments from the council?
Anyone on Zoom?
Oh, anyone on Zoom?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from anybody on the council?
No, sir.
Do we shut this down?
All right, let's have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
And Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Item number F, sir.
This is the, along with that project, we're going to do the landscaping and irrigation in conjunction with that project, and we'd ask the council consider awarding the agreement to Gulfstream Building Group, invitation to bid number 20-09, in the amount of $76,215, and authorize me to execute the documents.
So, Mayor, I move approval of item 12F.
Perfect. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Anyone from the audience or would like to speak on this, public? Anyone from Zoom?
No one.
Okay. Any comments from council? Let's have a roll call, please.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes, yes.
Vice Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Item number G, sir.
So for this one, I'm going to go and give the new council a little bit of background. Back when I first came to the city, one of the things we did is we implemented what I have termed the Progressive Pavement Management Program. We hired an outside company to evaluate every segment of roadway in the city and give it what we call a pavement condition index. And that gives us the overall condition of each segment of roadway, and each segment of roadway would be treated differently based on its pavement condition index. If it's in the 70s, it may get a microsurfacing, which is a very cost-effective treatment. If it's in the 40s or 50s, it may get a full reconstruction, which is very cost prohibitive in cases. So when you see these next two items, you're going to see some disparity between the different types of treatments on the first one, which are progressive pavements. They're green pavements. They're not all hot mix asphalt. They use cold emulsions. They use green energy to produce it, so that's a very green product. You use less of it, less fuel, less carbon emissions when you put it down, and it goes farther. So when we look at those are used on roads that are not quite failed. The last one, the next one we'll talk about, is the roads that have basically failed and they're reconstructed. And why I wanted to compare those two at the same time is if you look at the number of segments in the dollars, if all you did was do the full depth reclamation and the roads that have failed, by the time you get them all done, the roads that we can do the minor treatments on would have failed. You'll never catch up. So the theory with asphalt paving is you don't let your good roads go bad while you only treat the bad roads, because you'll never get ahead of that game. You've got to it's like not changing oil in your car and saying, I'm going to go and fix everything else on it, but I'm not going to do the preventative maintenance because that's not important. The tires are important and this is important. And then eventually that engine's going to fail and you'll be buying a new car at a higher rate than if you just change the oil. And so this is the way this process works. You know, and I developed this part of this program when I was in the private sector and how this happens, and it's effective. It allows you to plan your community on how you're going to go. And the best part is next year we'll be doing evaluation again and see how we've moved that pavement condition index along and if we're doing the right thing. And we may have to redo the program, may have to relook at it. We may have had roads that have gone to a more, need a different treatment than it was originally planned. So we would ask, and I can turn it over to Ken if you have any other questions to the city engineer, but you know, this is why we're doing this. We can do so many more. Ken, how many segments of roadway were we doing? Did you remember what that was? So it's,
Okay, and you're also including in this work the stormwater restoration that you're doing as you redo a street.
That's budgeted in stormwater.
It's budgeted in the
part of their
stormwater,
capital
but you're
projects.
including that, even though it's paid for out of stormwater, you're doing that with these projects.
Yes, but it's not included in these costs.
Oh, I understand that. I just want to make sure that it was included in this. Okay.
Yeah, so the swales and everything are done at the same time the streets are being resurfaced in
So-
some areas.
Yeah, where it's needed, they'll do the drainage improvements, culvert replacements, and cross drains will all go in prior to the paving projects, and driveway culverts, and that will be done as part of this project because what we found is if you don't do that along with the paving, you didn't do anything because the flooded swell system saturates the basin, you wind up with a failed road again. So if we don't, and council's direction at the time when we put this implementation program together was we would address the drainage issues the same time we address the paving issues to extend the life of that pavement.
Yes.
That's a long way to say yes.
All right. Anyone have any comments, or do I have a motion on item G?
A motion to approve item G.
Second.
All right, have a motion by Councilmember Nunn, seconded by Councilmember Jones to approve item G. Any comments?
Did we need public input?
I'm gonna ask for that.
Okay.
Any public input, please?
Before we vote.
I'm not gonna say ma'am.
Thank you. Andrea Ring, and, oh yes, let me tell you about streets. Well, Tulip Road, your driveways and everything are not going to get done with G or the roads that are being fixed under your G. They have to go to H before you get the swells and everything taken care of. So like when they did Tulip last year, they did not fix the drainage under the street. We still have a drainage problem on Tulip under the street. There's vegetation there. The vegetation in the canal system is not what's blocking the flow under Tulip. It is the vegetation growing in the tubes that we cannot get the city to clean out, even though we've called and asked them to clean it out. They won't come and clean it. So, H, I believe my road is an H, and I think it's going to be done this year. Am I getting the stormwater system along with my road?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Is her road on this list?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
H.
And the
It's
road,
an
the pipe
H?
that she's talking about under Tulip, they've checked it numerous times and it's clean.
Okay, and so under, your road, your street is under H.
Yeah,
And
Corey
so-
Street from Tulip
Yeah.
to,
But I will tell you, I mean, I've been down that street.
I know you have.
And I think you happen to be an unlucky person that's in one of those basins that is probably 3 feet below everybody around you, and all the water from the whole area is swelling right down on your street, so. But yes, you're an H, but we're not on to H yet, we're only talking about G right now.
But you were talking about it together.
Well, I
So
can't-
that
we
you
can't-
can
we can't-
compare the
we can't pass
difference
them
in
together. We gotta pass them
between
separate,
how
so.
much it's gonna cost
Yeah,
to do them.
yeah,
And there is a big difference in them.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, item G.
I'd like to ask one more question then.
Yes.
So when they are doing the G items, which is the resurfacing. Are they not fixing the swales and the culverts and those?
We do the whole, when we do the whole, that's, are you talking about on G?
On G,
Yes,
specifically.
we do the swells, we do the driveway pipes.
Okay, so that should still be getting taken care of, okay. All right, because that's important.
All right, let's have a roll call, please. This is an approval on item G by Councilmember Nunn, seconded by Councilmember Jones.
Can I have a vote?
Oh, you seconded?
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
seconded-
can I
sensitive-
say anything?
Seconded by the in-chair,
Can I
Mr.
say, no,
McPartland.
I didn't,
I did.
Mr.
wants to
Jones
talk.
did. I just want to talk.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Okay? It's like, I hope this bid is still good, because this was written up August 12th. And I could tell you, in the last 10 months, the roads throughout the city have deteriorated a lot.
Bad.
And I know these roads that are listed on item G hit a lot more. And so that's why it's important, you know, we're trying to stay ahead of the curve, but the roads throughout the city of Sebastian have deteriorated, especially in the last 2 months with those 2 heavy rainstorms. So this is much needed.
I agree with that.
Agree.
Okay. Now let's have a roll call.
Okay, Vice Mayor Hill,
Yes.
Councilmember Jones,
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin,
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn,
Yes.
Mayor Dodd,
Yes.
motion carries. Thank you.
We're on to item H.
So, Mr. Mayor, these are the roads that are in, basically deteriorated beyond repair. And this is a full depth reclamation process where we're going to completely reconstruct the roadway using innovative technology such as full depth reclamation, which is where you take the material that's existing and you grind it up and you add emulsion and cement to it and rebuild the road. It's not a remove and replace, that's too expensive. This is another green process where we utilize the materials that are existing, fortify them, strengthen them up, and then repave it, recross-section it, regrade it, and repave it, and we have a brand-new road at a lot cheaper cost than tearing everything up, hauling it off, hauling in new material. These are all green processes. So when we talk about sustainable Sebastian, everything that we're doing in this process is sustainable.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Anybody from the public would like to address this?
Now that you're on H, okay, can I just ask you the time frame? Do you know when you're going to be doing H?
I don't have a schedule from the contractor until we get the budget approved and we have pre-construction. Ken, you may have an update.
I've been in constant contact with the contractor, and the contractor is aware that this item is on the agenda tonight, and we are talking in advance for consideration of the council that schedule will happen soon.
Soon.
I have the exact date,
Thank you.
but I will soon.
Okay, do I have a motion on H?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
All right, we have a motion. Councilmember McPartlin, second by Councilmember Jones. Any comments from the council? Let's have a roll call, vote, please.
Councilmember Jones,
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin,
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn,
Yes.
Mayor Dodd,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hill.
Yes.
Okay,
Motion
we're on
carries.
to city attorney matters. Mr. Anand, do you have anything for us?
None from me, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. City manager matters.
I have nothing to add.
City clerk matters. Okay, Vice Mayor Hill.
Well, I happen to have some stuff, surprisingly. I'm sure most of the time I don't. First up, I've been looking into a little, something I think is pretty cool, and I spoke with the city manager about it. There's this process, there are these cool things you can buy that...
What was that? Was that somebody on Zoom?
Thanks.
Thank you, Manny.
Okay.
It's all right. So anyway, there's some mini reefs. There's things called mini reefs, and they hang under docks. And they eventually filter the water in the area. And I looked into them a little bit because it was intriguing to me, because if you go along our coastline here, we have a heck of a lot of docks, not only municipal, but also business and residential. So I spoke with the city manager, and I asked him, his thoughts on it, if he could take a look at it, and I don't know if you had any thoughts on it. I think it would be, they're relatively inexpensive, and I can see this as being part of the Sustainable Sebastian Initiative. We're doing our best to keep the waters clean going into the lagoon, but once it gets into the lagoon, we have some mitigation factors like the what are those things we bought that one year, Bob? Those oyster beds and those things.
But these things are pretty cool. They stay off the bottom, they float, they create sort of like an artificial reef, and the cost of them is so minimal that I would think that if we were to get behind some sort of an initiative and get the Indian River Lagoon Council involved in it, we could not only maybe do our municipal docks, but we could also try to create some sort of a grant funding program for homeowners and even businesses to potentially put them under theirs. It's really cool and it's relatively inexpensive, and I don't know if you looked at it yet.
I did.
Briefly,
So, when Vice Mayor had brought this to me, it was before or after one of our meetings, I went and looked online, and it's pretty impressive, I'm going to tell you. They're about $250. Takes about a year for them to establish, but after a year, it's estimated that they filter 30,000, filters 30,000 gallons of water. And it's amazing because it's 3 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot.
They're small.
And it literally hangs from the dock. And it has about a 10-year to 15-year lifespan. And if you go, I can't remember the name of the company, but I'll send it out to council. If you go on their website or their Facebook page, Naples, I think, has done 500 of them now, and there's municipalities, although it's growing, and they're showing such benefits in water quality just around that reef. It's amazing that something like that would do that.
I would be in favor of you putting together a proposal for us to do this on our municipal docks, assuming it works out what they say, and then take it to Indian River Lagoon Council, see if we can get grant money from them to pay for it, or if they're willing to help. I mean, I would certainly be in favor of being like that.
Two points, if I may. Please. So one is I have to make sure, though they say it's not, you don't have to get a permit, I need to make sure that we don't have any issues with shading of the seagrass beds, and we'll be able to do it. I have contacted Indian River Lagoon and seen if they want to partner with us. We'll buy the first few of them, put them in, and have their scientific expertise help us with monitoring. I haven't heard back from them, but I don't think I have a problem spending $500 and putting a couple of them out at the next to the oyster baskets.
Does anyone have any problem with them doing that? No. I mean, you could do a test. You could go ahead and maybe even put 4 of them out on a dock, $1,000, and put them out there and do a test on it, and just and document that and work with any River Lagoon Council and moving forward on it. I wouldn't have any problem with that.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. And so, I think, everything we do, it's got to be all hands on deck and all, and everything in. So thank you for that, Council. I appreciate that very much. Also, tonight I want to thank our police officers and all the employees of the city. You guys do a great job for us all the time. I very much appreciate everything you do. I want to thank the charter officers. You guys have done a great job for us, all 3 of you. Mr. Anand, I hope you can still see me. You've all done an outstanding job, and I very much appreciate you. City of Sebastian is a better place because of the police, the other employees, and our charter officers. So you guys should be very proud of what you guys do, because I am. So you guys make us look really good up here. Thank you. Also want to thank the public. You guys did a heck of a job in putting together a pretty darn good council. These 3 new council members, I believe in them very much. I think they're going to do an outstanding job for the city. And tonight's meeting, I think, is indicative of that, because we had a heck of an agenda that we had to get through, and we were able to do that. And some of the discussion was relatively hot, but the fact of the matter is we're 3 men up here who can have a conversation, or people, who can have a conversation, get through it, and then move on to the next item that's important for the city. And then finally, I want to announce the birth of Alexander Christopher Keeler. He would be my grandson, my 2nd grandchild, and he was born last week. So,
congratulations.
Thank you.
Councilmember Jones.
There's one thing I'd like to say. For many people that have been in this community for a long time, a good friend of mine passed away suddenly. His name was William Billy Wilson. He was a coach at the high school, assistant principal. His father had just died a couple weeks prior to that. But Billy made a big impact on a lot of children in our community and their families, just by the way he carried himself and the way he cared about our kids from Sebastian. So I just want to say to his family that I'm so sorry, and the condolences from us to his family. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Partland.
I'm glad to see we got through such an ambitious agenda. Good thing we cut out those 68 pages. he thought we could do it. But I am a little amazed at how much public input only came out. And I would wish people, maybe they're happy with the current council, I hope so. We'll continue to work as hard as we can. But I want citizens to remain engaged and informed and propose really good ideas. But I'm glad we got through it. I'm actually a little shocked.
Very good. I am. Councilmember Nunn.
I want to say thank you to the staff. I know I've talked to a lot of you a lot this week, and I know we're getting some things accomplished, getting some things done. I'm glad we're moving in a good direction and hopefully getting some things fixed for our residents in our city. Thank you.
All right. I have to bring this up because I got 2 emails about it. Would people please recognize that there are some really mean squirrels in Hardy Park? and if by feeding them peanuts, they just get meaner, and they're chasing people around Hardy Park trying to get fed. And I know, I talked to the city manager, and apparently we've tried to put some signs out, say, you know, don't feed the ducks because they attack kids because they're not getting fed, and don't feed the squirrels because they get mean. But I've had a couple of emails from people that were really trying to see if there's something the city could do, because apparently some of the squirrels in Hardy Park don't take no for an answer when they want a peanut, and they're chasing them around. So I wanted to bring that out.
Always go with peanuts.
Yeah. I also want to thank the council. We did have an extremely productive meeting this evening, and as should be the case on issues that were sensitive, we had some disagreements, but we worked our way through them, and we worked our way through them as adults, and we came to a conclusion, and I am very pleased to see that happen. It hasn't happened for a long time up here, and it's very pleasing to me to see it happen. My last thing, we hear a lot of talk about the 3 arms of our government, the legislative, judicial, and executive, right? But there's really 4 branches of government in the United States at every level, municipal level, county level, state level, wherever it is. That 4th branch is we the people. And the only time that we the people operate as a true branch of the constitutional government that we have in this country is when we vote. It's the only time we do that. The legislators could not do what they do unless we voted for them. The executive could not do what they do unless we vote for them. And judicial would not be where they are unless we vote for legislators and executive branch people who put them there. And our founding fathers knew that. And that's why the very first phrase that they put together was, we the people. And the we the people have to vote. And it's discouraging sometimes when I see the percentages of people who vote. Last November, 18% of the people in the city of Sebastian voted, and they realized they saw what happened. I was very encouraged when a group of citizens stood up and took charge on that. But I'm asking you to please vote. I don't care who you vote for. It's not my problem. It's yours. But we should see voting in the 60 to 70% range in this country, not in the 14 to 25% range. It is important, highly important, that you vote in the November 3rd election, no matter how you do it and no matter who you vote for. So vote, vote, vote. Thank you. If anyone has anything for good order, please bring it up. If not, we are adjourned.
If it's for real, you gon' feel it.